Yes, Chair. Supervisor Arroyo.
Here.
Supervisor Bone. Supervisor Wilson.
Presente.
Supervisor Madrone.
Present.
Chair Bushnell.
Good morning again.
All are here.
Okay, can we salute our flag, please? Okay, we're going to go right to departmental reports, and we're going to go to a county administrative office. Informational county department reports for fiscal year 25-26.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bushnell. And just a point of order, we'll be swapping these two items today so that we can present the financial forecast and update on the strategic plan. And Jessica Maciel, Deputy County Administrator, is here to present to your board today.
Good morning, Chair Bushnell and members of the board. Kaylee, I'll wait for her to bring up my PowerPoint. Oh. All right, thank you, Kaylee. I'm here to present the 2025 General Fund 5-year financial forecast, as well as an update on the implementation of your board's 2024 to 2028 strategic plan. This financial forecast is intended to provide your board and the public information on trends in anticipated revenues, expenditures, and fund balance. I will start with the financial forecast, and then I'll move on to the strategic plan. And I just want to run through a few of the sources and assumptions. This is a 5-year forecast through fiscal year 2029 through 2030. This is the first financial forecast since before the COVID-19 pandemic. In prior iterations, there were 7-year versions as well as forecasting for all of the funds. While our auditor controller is still working to catch us up, this forecast is limited to the general fund and is a 5-year forecast. This report utilizes a number of publications for economic indicators that help drive the projections and give context to the data. Those include state and federal publications from the Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, and California Legislative Analyst's Office, LAO, as well as the Bureau of Labor Statistics CPI tables. In addition, for more specific California and Humboldt data, Beacon Economics and the Humboldt Economic Index produced by Cal Poly Humboldt were utilized. Additionally, this forecast is based on a number of assumptions, all of which are included in the forecast table, which is at the end of the forecast document. Some of the highlights from the assumptions include the sales tax forecasts, including Proposition 172, are based on reports from HDL. HDL has provided sales tax data and forecasting for the county for more than a decade and are reliable in their reporting. The next one, due to your board's decision to waive Measure S in the coming year and the inconsistency of collections and refunds for the cannabis excise tax, this source is not consistent or significant enough to include in the forecast, so it has been kept out of the forecast. Our largest expenditure, salary and benefits, are forecasted to increase at 5% per year to account for step increases. Your board may choose to utilize cost-saving programs that you have utilized in the past, such as the Voluntary Separation Incentive Program, voluntary furlough, or hiring freeze, which could impact this number. And this forecast maintains annual contributions to deferred maintenance, reserves, and contingencies. And finally, as your board approved at the mid-year report, Measure Z is moving to a separate fund in the coming year, which will allow for more efficient tracking. Therefore, it will not be in Fund 1100 with the other general fund programs anymore. And Measure O will also have a separate fund, so this forecast does not include Measure Z and Measure O. All right, we'll get right to the good stuff. or maybe not so good stuff. The main takeaway from the financial forecast, has been reported to your board, maintaining as is, expenditures will continue to outpace revenues at an increasing rate. And the general fund is anticipated to go negative during fiscal year 26-27. This culminates in the final year of the forecast period, fiscal year 29-30, at negative 77 million. The primary factor in this is the ongoing structural budget deficit. Your board made progress between fiscal year 23-24 and fiscal year 24-25, reducing the budget deficit from over $18 million to just over $15 million. However, this will not be enough to make the correction needed by fiscal year 26-27. Since the board cannot adopt a budget utilizing fund balance when fund balance is negative, more impactful measures to reduce the negative fund balance and bring forth a balanced budget will be required in future years. As this is a projection, any number of factors can impact and change these numbers, like better than anticipated performance in property or sales tax. Just a change of 1% in property tax values is equivalent to approximately, assuming collected, $590,000 in revenue for the general fund in fiscal year 25-26. There is potential that property taxes could be lower or higher than projected. This forecast is what we would consider a moderate scenario. However, since I am a conservative budgeteer, it is more likely on the conservative side of moderate. This chart depicts the change in assessed property tax value over the last 30 years. And you can see less than a third of the years have dipped below the 2% mark, and more recently has hovered around the 4% mark. Another impactful tax is sales tax. Many revenue sources for the county are dependent on sales tax in some form. The county has local sales tax measures, Measure Z, the public safety sales tax, and very recently passed Measure O, the roads and transportation sales tax. Though this forecast does not include those two sources, the forecasting model for those would be similar. In addition, both 2011 and 1991 realignment are funded by state sales tax and are impacted by the performance of sales tax. For the general fund, the primary funding sources impacted are the Proposition 172 state public safety sales tax and the Bradley-Burns sales tax. The Bradley-Burns sales tax is the portion of the state sales tax returned to counties. Roughly 1/4% is sent to the countywide regional transportation fund, and the balance, or roughly 1%, supports local government general funds. Due to the methodology used to calculate the Bradley-Burns, it has been heavily impacted in recent years by the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, or CDTFA, decision to return sales tax for online purchases from distribution centers to the location where the distribution center is located. During COVID-19, Humboldt County saw a lot of visitors, and due to that, better than ever sales tax receipts. Since then, and due to the distribution center decision, Humboldt has seen sales tax drop even below pre-COVID levels. I'm gonna run through a couple of challenges that are impacting our financial position. I will start with the structural budget deficit. As I mentioned, expenditures are expected to continue to outpace revenues at an increasing rate. In fiscal year 26-27, you may notice the gap closes some. This is due to anticipated improvement in pension costs for 1 year, while also utilizing remaining one-time employer pension fund balance, as is being used for fiscal year 25-26 to smooth pension costs. And then in fiscal year 27-28, the trend snaps back to the exponential level as anticipated. More on pension costs. As mentioned in the previous slide, Fiscal year 26-27 is anticipated to have a dip in unfunded liability costs. That's the top line on here. This is due to, we had a benefit change that was implemented in 2004, and since they're amortized over 20 years, that benefit change will drop off at that point. Simultaneously, the 2022 and 2023 poor performance in CalPERS investments are still ramping up to full amortization. One good thing to note here is the stability of the normal pension costs, which is the lower line. These have begun to stabilize as a result of pension reform, and we have seen decreases in anticipated rates in the non-safety retirements even. Currently, the unfunded liability is anticipated to peak around 2030 or 2031. Any poor performance in CalPERS investments could push out that peak, though. And what we're doing about the unfunded liability. Several years ago, the board established a 115 trust for pension stabilization with PARS to begin addressing the unfunded liability. Your board has supported continuing to invest in pension stabilization, contributing 2% of salaries to the PARS trust annually. As of the most recent report, the trust had reached over $14 million. The county has a long-term pension funding strategy in which continued investment into PARS will allow for future payments to strategically pay down the unfunded liability. The chart above depicts an anticipated annual return on the PARS trust of about 6%. Another challenge, as your board is very aware, is that the cannabis industry has struggled in Humboldt in recent years. In recognition of that struggle, the board has waived and reduced local Measure S cannabis excise taxes in some form since 2021. The struggles in the cannabis industry have been a huge impact to the Humboldt County economy, particularly in more rural areas, with simultaneous economic impacts from the post-pandemic downturn. As mentioned in the assumptions, Measure S was not included in the forecast due to the uncertainty in the industry and the waiver for the upcoming year. Finally, the last challenge I wanted to touch on is inflation. This chart depicts consumer price index growth. CPI is a government-issued growth factor based on the retail prices of basic household goods and services. For the West region, based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics CPI tables, the average annual CPI over the last decade was around 3.3% growth year over year, over a 1% increase from the prior decade at 2.1%. And in just the last 5 years, the average annual CPI was 4.3%. Inflation simultaneously can reduce revenue for local governments in the reduction of consumer spending, while increasing costs of goods and services that local government needs to provide service. After the marked increase in 2022, fortunately, the Congressional Budget Office does anticipate inflation to continue to stabilize at around 2% growth year over year. And I want to sort of end, I have another slide, but ending on a brighter note. Your board has taken significant action to improve the fiscal sustainability in terms of contributions to reserves with one-time fund balance, which will allow the general reserves to meet the minimum policy level in fiscal year 25-26. The forecast includes continued contributions to reserves at $1 million per year with a goal of reaching the target balance as recommended by the Government Finance Officers Association at 2 months of revenues or expenditures, which would be roughly $22 million in fiscal year 25-26. Currently, with your approved contribution for 25-26, the balance will reach just over $16 million. In summary, this is a projection and does not consider possible law or policy changes or changes in economic conditions. There are external forces, including economic and political conditions, with much uncertainty with regard to funding at the federal level. In addition, we are currently in ongoing labor negotiations. The forecast does include a one-time contingency for fiscal year 25-26 in the general fund of $5 million for labor negotiations, but this forecast does not consider any future rounds of labor negotiations. With that, I just have a few slides on the strategic plan. So, in 2024, your board adopted the 2024 to 2028 strategic plan. As the budget is a statement of your board's values, an effective strategic plan is critical in informing the budget. The structure of the strategic plan is 5 areas of focus, and each area has subsets of action items assigned to county departments. County departments provided updates on their progress with the submission of their mid-year budget updates. And this is just a highlight of some of the progress. The attached report, the report attached to the staff report is more comprehensive and includes all of the reported progress from county departments. But a few highlights of progress include the radio infrastructure project, which is nearing completion. Frequency and radio signal testing have been conducted, and the vendor is fine-tuning the digital system. Additionally, the public health laboratory property escrow closed on January 19th, 2024, and staff are continuing to look for funding opportunities to fund the building. And Measure O, the local roads and transit revenue tax measure, passed with 63% voter approval and is projected to generate $24 million for critical transportation improvements. As far as economic development, your board has approved targeted investments in tourism and aviation marketing. The tourism assets and marketing analysis went out to RFP in December 2024. And the item to award the RFP will be going before your board this month. The workforce and operational excellence, the supervisory training program, pilot program, was initiated in April 2024 and completed this year, with the first non-pilot supervisory training program beginning this year as well. And the program is continually under evaluation. As far as housing, the modified zoning ordinance to expand allowing residential uses in commercial zones was completed in November, and the tiny homes ordinance was completed in 2024 as well. And finally, the Regional Climate Action Plan is expected to be ready for adoption in the middle of this year. Oops, actually, sorry, one more thing. A key theme reported by departments was that many of the action items lack funding or resources. As the county continues to navigate difficult fiscal times, priority will have to be placed on maintaining core mandated services. Despite these challenges, staff are seeking new funding sources and prioritizing strategic plan initiatives where it makes sense. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Board questions? Supervisor Madrone.
Thank you, Chair. Could we go back to the slide on sales tax, please? Oops, there you go. Yeah, that one. Great. Thanks, Jessica. So the huge drop in 21, what was that about? And the blue line?
Yeah, that was the snapback after the COVID-19 increase. So the line there is showing the change year over year. The green amount is the actual sales tax receipts. The green bars are the actual sales tax receipts. So that drop was the initial snapback after COVID-19.
So in 1920, there was a bunch of money put into the economy, but 21, there was less, people had less money to spend.
Yeah,
Sales tax
2021,
declined.
I think, was our peak at just over $8 million.
Yeah.
And so 21, 22 was where that drop began, yeah.
And then you also mentioned some changes in how sales tax are distributed, because I think a lot of people are still under the impression that there was that 1 year or 2 years where it went to the place that was, the person was ordering. So if you were ordering something online in Eureka, the sales tax went to Eureka. But that was only for like a year or two, and then it shifted back to where the sales tax goes, and this is generalizing because it's a complex picture.
Yes.
But basically, the sales tax now goes to the location of the distribution center. We have 0 distribution centers in Humboldt County. I believe there's one proposed at the Airport Business Park up in McKinleyville that may be coming in the not-too-distant future. But this concept of shopping local, I mean, we're not going to be increasing taxes anytime soon because we're really maxed out. We all know this. But if we can get more of the taxes that we already have, if half the people, half the shopping shifted to online, to local rather than online shopping, what kind of an impact would that have on sales tax? I mean, that's kind of a hard thing to probably estimate, right? But it could have a very dramatic improvement to our sales tax revenue. Is that accurate to say? Yeah, yeah, it won't hurt. I mean, that's the obvious, but I'm just wondering the level of importance, you know, in terms of revenue value that might mean. Do you have any sense of that at all?
I do not have any specific numbers, but it would impact both the Bradley Burn sales tax and the Prop 172 tax.
Okay, and as Supervisor Bone says, it won't hurt, right? So,
For sure.
okay, just wanted to get some clarification there. Thank you.
Anyone else? Supervisor Wilson.
Thanks. I read somewhere there was some concerns about the stock market changes due to the current volatility on retirement, especially as it refers to PERS, and the impacts on the actual budgets to account for that, not this year, but actually in the next year. And I was just hoping you could frame that out or talk about it. I mean, you may have heard about this. So.
Yeah. It does sound like the CEO for CalPERS is indicating they don't anticipate returns to go negative, but they don't necessarily expect them to hit the target return rate, which then effectively is a loss for our county and increases our unfunded liability. To that, I think the sorry, one moment. Pull this up.
My question is specifically, do we make that up, you know, from our budget to within that year?
Yes, we would have to. How it works, though, is when they have a poor performance year, it can take, I think, 2 years for that then to go on to our unfunded liability, and there's a ramp up, a 5-year ramp up of the increase in cost for that poor performance year. So as I was noting about 22 and 23, those 2 poor performance years are still in their ramp up in our UAL, so that's why the peak is around 2030, 2031, because those will start hitting their full amortization amount at that point.
So we haven't really, have we accounted in our projections, or is that just too far out in terms of like accounting within our projections for potential losses that we might incur due to that sort of low slowing down of any growth within our portfolios?
We have not, this forecast does not include any future anticipated losses in CalPERS.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Oh, Supervisor Arroyo.
You touched on our reserve, and I wondered if you could. I know I've heard this in the past, but what are like monthly expenses as a county? Payroll, et cetera, essential expenses.
Yeah, I do not have the chart that shows the annual breakdown, but it is in the report, our annual breakdown of expenditures. Just salary and benefits for the general fund alone is around 100 million a year. And so when you think about it in terms of that, $16 million is pretty small in terms of carrying payroll. So the total general fund budget is in the range of $150 million. So to carry, it's about 10, we're just right around 10%. We'll be going over that in 25, 26.
Okay, so we have a little less than a month's worth of reserves, and that doesn't even, that doesn't cover everything.
That doesn't even include other funds outside
yeah,
the general
yeah.
fund, so.
Okay, so we certainly need to be as tough as it is building that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, we're going to go out to public comment. Kaylee?
Thank you, Chair. Caller 7718, I will unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, Ken Swatsky from Mexico. I think one of the biggest constraints you're going to have here is the volatility of the stock market. For a long time, many of us have felt that it's not actually reflecting the economy accurately. I think it's way higher value than a lot of us think it should be from what we've actually seen as far as what it's representing. And so it could take a major downturn. Some people say too big to fail. Well, it's failed before. They keep propping it up, but eventually I think those crutches that they prop it up with may drop out underneath it. So I would allow for some major, I think Patrick Clooney, or I think there's a guy who has he tracks that quite accurately. It seems like your balance, and then other municipalities, has been increasing at a rather rapid rate as far as that goes. So unless you're actually cutting back on your staff, I can't see how you're not going to have major consequences in the future. Okay, anyway, well, look forward to the rest of the presentation, and thank you for the opportunity to speak at this point.
That's all, Chair.
Is there any public comment in the room? No? Okay, so we'll close public comment. Is that it? Okay. So we'll go on to the next item. I want to clarify with County Council that, do I need to do public comment after each department reports? I don't think so, but I want to clarify.
I don't believe so, but we should have a motion on this first item before.
Oh, yeah. Could we get a motion?
I'll move to accept the report.
Second.
Great job, Jess.
Kaylee, mine didn't come up. No.
Would you like to do a verbal?
Unless I can get this to work. It's not working. Just do, yeah, that's fine.
Chair Bushnell?
Yes.
Supervisor Arroyo?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilson?
Yep.
Supervisor Madrone?
Yes.
Supervisor Bone? Sure. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. So the next item is going to be 2025 General Fund, International County Department reports for fiscal year 25-26. And the first department is Department of Health and Human Services. Morning, Connie.
Good morning.
So I'll have you go through your presentation, and then any board questions will come at the end.
Great. Thank you, Kaylee. Thank you, Chair Bushnell and Supervisors. I'm Connie Beck, Health and Human Services Director. I'm here with our Deputy Director of Finance, Travis Green. We're changing it up a little bit this year just due to the changes in landscape in our budget process. So I thought it was helpful to have Travis here. I also have a number of folks in the room that are experts in the different programs that we run. So I'll get started. Thank you for allowing us to present today on the budget for fiscal year 25-26. I do want to take a moment to thank staff from the CAO for putting together a process every year for us to follow. I know that sometimes it feels like they are herding cats, but it is useful to get us all on the same page. Human Resources Risk Management, for working on the workers' comp issues this year, I felt was really helpful decreasing the cost to departments, so I want to appreciate them. And then the Auditor Controller's Office, I just want to thank staff for getting our county back into accounting systems and structures that can work for all of us and that we can maintain our system. So I appreciate that. And then last but not least, I have to thank the staff in DHHS that have not only participated in the budget process for this portion, but just the work that they've done all year. We have been working on our budget processes and structure and efficiencies for the entire year, not just a few months. So I'm going to turn our presentation over to Travis now for the budget pieces of the presentation, and then I'll follow up with some more information. So thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Good morning, Chair Bushnell and distinguished members of the board. The total budget for DHHS for fiscal year 25-26 is $293 million. As you can see from the pie chart, social services is the largest section, followed by behavioral health and then public health. General relief is not part of the pie chart. However, it is administered by social services. Although we are an integrated branch and braid our funding, the funding structures are kept siloed due to state funding structures. As such, mental health is mostly funded through the Department of Healthcare Services. Public health is mostly funded through the California Department of Public Health, and social services is mostly funded through the California Department of Social Services. This next pie chart illustrates that the majority of our funding for DHHS comes through federal, state, and realignment sources. And for those in the audience that may not know, many programs within social services and behavioral health were realigned to the counties from the state. And lastly, our fees and permits revenue is mainly received by public health. This next chart does include general relief and the overall calculations. And from 24-25 budget year to 25-26, we are budgeting a $24.4 million reduction. Next slide. In order to further enhance the department's ability to reduce costs and serve the community effectively, DHHS has undertaken a series of organizational and financial strategies aimed at improving the overall operational efficiency and sustainability. These measures are designed to streamline operations, maximize available resources, and ensure that the department continues to meet the needs of the community while maintaining fiscal responsibility. The implementation of these actions will reduce the department's fund balance deficit, enhance operational efficiency and align the department's costs with available matching funds. We're doing everything possible to have the least impact on services to the community while doing these reductions. And with that, I will turn it back over to Connie.
Our largest decrease in expenditures is, of course, salary and benefits. We have also reduced facility costs, IS costs, and travel and training costs. We have had an internal committee and subcommittees to look at our structures and identify areas for cost savings and efficiencies. Multiple staff from different areas of the department are participating in these committees. We have had many good ideas come out of these committees. We removed landline phones of staff that have cell phones because of field work and/or telework. We've learned that color copies cost 6 times more than black and white. Obviously, we are changing our settings on printers to ensure we use black and white whenever possible. One idea that was taken into consideration was to move all the lights but one in each office. That is how granular that we have been looking for cost reduction and savings. Some of that actually wasn't taken very seriously, but it was kind of silly. Some of the agreements not renewed that are considered non-mandates but were beneficial to the work that we do in the community are Humboldt County Office of Education cost sharing for SARB coordinator, the RCAA A-Factor AmeriCorps member. This is a cost share of the administrative portion of the local AmeriCorps program, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and then we also reduced our participation in the CAST DA MOU and probation's wraparound program, although we do share in those costs for wraparound services. This chart makes it clear we have been continuing to decrease the number of allocated positions across all the branches for a few years now. In the current year, we have held positions vacant that would have normally been easy to fill and also deallocated some of those positions. Since 2023, we have reduced our allocated positions by 119. For our proposed budget for 25-26, we've reduced by 77.9 positions. We have filled positions for staff providing direct service, such as clinicians and eligibility staff, while we have reduced administrative supports. This has made us have to look at what duties staff have historically done to some of what is absolutely necessary. We have moved all of the administrative positions to one budget to better distribute the costs and be more efficient. We have also consolidated some of our business units. Our accounts payable and benefit issuance unit is now, we used to have 2 units and 2 supervisors. We now have 1 supervisor over both of those units. Behavioral health fiscal and our claims data management units are now closely integrated under 1 supervisor. We're also decreasing the lease footprint within the county where it makes sense, I should say. Public Health WIC building at 317 2nd Street closure saved $100,000, not including other associated costs and other building maintenance. We're looking at vacating 605 K Street. That will save over $300,000 a year. Staff there will be relocated to the professional building and the plaza where there's appropriate space and it makes sense for the program. Due to low foot traffic, we are closing the Redway office. We will move the permanent staff there to Garberville. That'll save an additional $28,000 annually. And then we're looking at reprogramming the Willow Creek office, mainly because of the staff that have lived in the area for a while are retiring. And we're rethinking who provides services there. But behavioral health spends a significant amount of their time there with providing outpatient services and med appointments. So they will continue to do some work there. And then other prior closures was the 215 4th Street, the call center back in 2022. We are seeing an improvement in the fund balance for social services and forecast a $1.1 million improvement in the fund balance ending fiscal year 24-25. That doesn't include the transfer. I'm just thinking that out loud. That doesn't include the transfer that might happen between public health and social services, so that could be an additional increase or decrease of the fund balance deficit. We have reviewed every area that realignment is being used to fund large portions of programs and reducing those when possible. One of those that are being shifted is HCTC. We are reducing the number of staff in that program and have shifted some of that work to better fund the important advocacy work that is done there. We're not changing the program, but we are reducing some of the staffing there. They will, they'll have less ability to serve the number of youth the YAB staff. Currently, I think they're serving like 30 youth, and we'll probably reduce that to about 15. The CalFresh change that your board approved will reduce county expenditure of realignment by about $478,000. And then I'll just note that, oh, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong slide here. The public guardian is currently using about half of the entire county general fund that's received by social services. That is not a realigned program, and we're not allowed to use realignment for funding public guardians. So we are we're researching other counties to figure out how to better fund public guardian, because the way it's going now, it's just not sustainable. And there's care court and other things, SB 43 coming up, that kind of worries me for that area. For behavioral health, Cal Mesa is a state organization, and they're looking to provide technical assistance for counties like ours who struggle with structural deficits. We believe this will be helpful to us given the ongoing changes to behavioral health. We also have a new budget specialist in that role, so I think the timing is perfect because she'll be able to get a lot of training in that role. One of the biggest obstacles is staffing and direct service rates in behavioral health. We continue to struggle to hire qualified and licensed staff to do some of the work. Contractors can have better direct service rates, and we are able to hold them accountable, which means they are able to generate more revenue. Behavioral health mandates require that we have a minimum level of services that meets the needs of the community. We continue to struggle with this given our staffing levels. So we will be identifying priority areas for possible RFPs to contract out to ensure services are provided as required. As we go into the next budget cycle, we will be asking your board for support in contracting out some of those services that have historically been done internally if things don't change. We are shifting some of our costs for dual diagnosed clients to substance use disorder claiming where appropriate. We also received a new grant for behavioral health placements that will provide an additional funding for placement, which is one of our biggest expenditures in behavioral health. And the cuts to Medicaid could impact our ability to provide some services too. Although public health has a significant fund balance, currently they were using a considerable amount for services. They were also seeing programmatic shifts due to CalAIM and other changes. Sophia and her team have been strategic to reduce the use of realignment only and were successful in moving their WIC and nursing services. They have also reduced a number of allocated FTEs. All of this will better prepare public health for more federal cuts. In public health, we receive approximately $7 million in federal funds. We have already seen cuts to COVID funds. We are unsure what could be next, but based on what we have heard recently, it could be public health emergency prep, substance use disorder prevention, HIV services, and immunizations. We expect to see the state May revise of the budget this week. Given the uncertainty at the federal level, it is anticipated that it may not mean much since the federal budget will impact that decision-making longer term. We were already anticipating some possible cuts to state programs like the CalWORKS Housing Support Program, Child Welfare's Bringing Families Home, our HDAP, which is the Housing and Disability Assistance Program, and Adult Protective Services Home Safe Program. We also receive a majority of our homeless services funding that is funded through the continuum of care through the state. Most of the federal cuts for our largest mandates like TANF, SNAP, and Medicaid are all administered by the state. Any cuts will take the state to reorganize those programs, which are CalWORKS, CalFresh, and Medi-Cal. If we just focus on Medicaid, the proposed federal cuts result in cost shifts to states, counties, hospitals, clinics, and community-based organizations. These cuts will destabilize the healthcare system for all patients with all insurance types. We probably will see a loss of healthcare jobs and as a result see an increase in morbidity and mortality. I like this quote: Medicaid dollars don't go to people, they go to hospitals, doctors' offices, pharmacy, and nursing homes. And these payments actually include behavioral health also. Possible changes are reducing the federal medical assistance percentage, which is FMAP, they call it. That reimbursement rate for services, lowering or reducing that minimum of 50%. This means that the state will have to look at the other services that are being provided in healthcare and possibly reduce those also. There is anticipation that there will be adding work requirements for recipients. It is estimated up to 20% reduction in recipients if there is implementation of work requirements. That is up to 12,000 people out of the current 58 that receive services in Humboldt County. The 12,000 will most likely be shifted to CMSP, which is the County Medical Services Program, and increase the cost of this program to Humboldt. We can anticipate an increase to the General Relief Program also. Besides the impact to community members, the administrative burden on staff to initiate the changes, reestablishing CMSP will be a huge undertaking for state and county eligibility and benefit staff that administer these programs. We do anticipate an increased need for our services based on the other cuts to poverty-reducing services provided by local community-based organizations that are currently experiencing federal reductions. And examples of this is the HUD Housing Voucher Program, AmeriCorps, CASA, and Food for People. There's also talk of a recession. I think it's useful to look back to 2008 versus now. In 2008, DHHS had a significant fund balance and was able to absorb the cuts to public health funding and also absorbed a few positions in other county departments that would otherwise have been laid off. In 2009, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act stimulus package was enacted. which increased in employment and other services. I don't anticipate that happening anytime soon in our political environment currently. And we could also anticipate, I think Jessica mentioned this earlier, but we could anticipate a decrease in realignment, which is used to match for the most of our allocated position or revenue. For ongoing planning, I have a couple of bullets here that I'd just like to mention. My preference is to not have an external hiring freeze, as DHHS is giving internal scrutiny and thought to every position. Only positions that we know are absolutely necessary are moved forward to request exemption and/or hiring in other areas. The current process is an additional administrative burden for staff of everyone that's included, HR and CAO's office. But if we do need to continue this process, I'll identify the other positions that would need to be exempt from the hiring freeze. And I would also ask that internal service fund and other FTEs from other departments that are charged back to DHHS also have that same hiring freeze. We will continue to look at ways to more efficiently provide services that the community needs. We are preparing as much as possible for unprecedented cuts in the state and federal budgets and being as proactive as possible. Our leadership is active in many state associations to keep up to date with the ever-changing landscape and appreciate your letters of support that have been provided for the various programs within DHHS. In the meantime, I remind myself as well as others that we will get through this just as we have gotten through other changes over time. Change is inevitable, and we will continue to take care of ourselves and other community members the best we can. I tried to keep this short this year, given all that is happening with the budget, but I do think it's important for me to appreciate all the staff in DHHS and also the community partners that do really good and sometimes hard work for our community. Thank you all for your support.
Thank you, Connie. Are there any questions from the board? Supervisor Wilson, then Supervisor Arroyo.
This actually is not a question for you, it's a question for our fiscal analysis, and I'm wondering if the decreases in funding from the federal government and the increase in the need for us to internalize that were part of the projections that we saw in the previous review.
Through the chair, I can speak to that.
Go ahead.
They were not included. I did mention in the economic outlook that there's a lot of uncertainty at the state and federal level, especially the federal level. I think DHHS would agree that it's very inconsistent and sporadic and difficult to predict. And so the current projection does not include any additional general fund to backfill for federal spending cuts or state spending cuts.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Supervisor Arroyo?
My understanding is that there is some carryover from this year that needs to be addressed. I'm not sure if that has been fully resolved. Sorry, not carryover revenue, carryover funds that need to be, is there a carryover deficit from this year?
Some Kleenex.
There is. And in behavioral health, we are hopeful that that deficit should be reduced.
Okay.
But social services is going to take some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. That's just helpful to know in context of all of what you presented, and not a question, but just a comment. I know I can tell this is heartbreaking. I can hear it and see it in all your faces and voices, and yeah, it's really hard. So thank you for bearing with us and helping to steer the ship through some unbelievably rough waters. And that goes for everybody in this room. This is a day I sort of dreaded just because it's such a hard thing to get through. So thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Supervisor Madrone?
Yeah, definitely difficult times for all of us, but please know that up here at the board, we are so appreciative of the work that everybody does in all of these departments. But being half the county employee base, half the budget, a lot of that burden rests within DHHS, and I know people are, the workloads are huge. The tasks are difficult. And we recognize that, and we so appreciate all of our employees, and I know I speak for the whole board when I say that really our heart goes out to all of you, and we thank you all for your hard work.
Supervisor Wilson?
Just a small note, I appreciate the policy, even though it seems minor in the vast issue we're dealing with, for printing within the department to be not just the default setting for black and white, but also the default setting for double-sided. And I have to tell you, it takes a culture change to do that. It's actually, you would think it would be very easy, but you have to work with IT and this, that, and the other, and all the other things. So I'm hoping that all departments are hearing that. If you don't already have that as your default setting policy, please consider that. Or actually, I can't give you a command from up here, but I'm just saying this is something we need to. One very minor change that we need to, as well as dealing with within those departments. If you see inefficiencies in lighting or anything like that, please let our public facilities know, and they'll add it to the list. Thanks.
Anyone else? No? I appreciate the report and the anguish that is happening around the cuts that are coming is real. It's also real in our community. There's a lot of heightened anxiety amongst people in Humboldt County as well as beyond that. And I know that also triggers your staff when you're getting calls of people that are feeling the uncertainty, and it is affecting their households. And so I commend your staff for the patience and talking with those folks. And it's hard when you don't have anything to say to them, like, oh, we have to wait, or we don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. Those are not great answers, and sometimes are met with hostility, so that can really increase anxiety and stress within your staff. So I know that's going on right now. I hear it from my constituents. I'm sure everybody on the board does. And also thank you for recognizing that it's going to be rough coming, in the next year, not only just because of the federal cuts coming, but just generally with our budget process. So thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on to the next.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Clerk, recorder, and elections. Good morning, Juan. You're welcome to sit at the table. Each side works.
I'll stand.
Okay.
If you're okay with that?
Yep.
I sit a lot.
If you would like any of your staff to sit at the tables, they can. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the time to chat with you all. I hope my presentation doesn't come across as tone deaf. It's a very different presentation than the one we just saw. I'm sensitive to that. I imagine that next year's presentation is probably going to be of a similar tone to Connie's. This year, given that the budget process was such that we received the same allocation as last year, like all other county departments, we figured we'd focus on what we've been up to and letting you all know. So hopefully this will be less of a dread-like presentation for you all and an ability to highlight the amazing work that our staff is doing. My name is Juan Pablo Cervantes. I'm the Clerk Recorder Registrar of Voters. I oversee 2 different offices with about 17 full-time employees, and over the course of a year, upwards of 200 extra help employees. We'll start off with the clerk recorder side. We have 8 folks, or 11 folks in the office regularly. 10 of those are full-time staff. We are acclaimed to have the best view in the county. I mean, with a picture like that, it's hard to argue that. But one of the main things we do is we maintain all of your important records for the county, everything from deeds, easements, birth certificates, death certificates, marriage licenses, the whole kit and caboodle. We've put a lot of work into training our staff and giving them the resources they need in order to do a great job for your constituents. We've started to see that being reflected in the amount of emails and letters and notes that I receive complimenting the work and how they do that work. And we wanted to share with you a couple of comments that we've received. I'll save your time and not read them, but I'll make this PowerPoint accessible for you afterwards. Our daily operations, we've done a lot this last year. We've completed the restricted covenant modification program through AB 1466. That's a really bureaucratic way of saying that we've followed state law and removed some really problematic language from deeds and easements that we've had recorded since we started doing this. What that means is in yesteryear, deeds may have something that restricted the ability for a certain type of person to buy a home in certain neighborhoods. We found language that included racial slurs, things of that nature. And so we've managed to go through all the way back, no matter how cursive and curly the language was, and redact those in accordance with state law. We've undertaken a pretty broad preservation project that should be coming in the next couple of months, and I'll be coming back before you all to talk to you about what all that entailed. We've addressed building security risks, implemented measures to strengthen the department in those areas. We've gone as far as getting a Narcan test or training and Narcan in our office due to incidents we've had in the past. And that's just the new future we find ourselves in as public administrators. And as many of you know, we performed the most number of marriages in a single day on Valentine's Day. We collaborated with you all, with the CAO's office. Giant shout out to Cadi Gallardo, the public information specialist. She was instrumental to all of this. And we went out and did more with less for our community. It was really well received. We conducted 17 marriages across 3 different locations. And many of you all were able to participate in that. We really wanted to highlight our county parks. We live in my opinion, the most beautiful place on earth, and we have some of the most beautiful county parks in the country, and we wanted to make sure folks knew that, that they make amazing wedding venues. So hopefully that'll drum up a little tourism in the upcoming years. Some interesting trends that are going on in our department. I'm sure you all have heard the Real ID is going to be a mandated thing. We can see that in our data that people are getting the message. And so the 2 lines you see on each of those graphs is 2024 and 2025 certificate purchases, whether they're marriage, birth, or death. The death on the bottom right, you'll notice that those lines kind of are kind of following one another. On the other side, the marriage and birth certificates, you see a pretty sharp increase. We've almost doubled the amount of certificates that we're selling in our office in the past couple of months. We expect that to increase even more so. But I thought that was an interesting immediate visualization of policy impacting staffing. Things that we're going to do to make things better going forward. We're going to continue participating with our statewide associations. One of the things we're working on currently is stabilizing our fee structure. Currently, our office has a deficit that we're managing with internal trust funds, and keeping projects going with those trust funds. That's not going to be sustainable forever. So we're working on a piece of legislation that'll probably be bringing back to your office to get a letter of support for. That's going to stabilize that. That'll keep me from coming in and asking for money that you don't have next year. We're expanding our presence in the community, meeting people where they're at, so that they know what kind of services we have available for folks. And we're working with the County Office of Emergency Services to make ourselves more available during county emergencies so that people can get access to birth, death, and marriage certificates during those times. We'll continue cross-training and making sure that we can do better for your constituents. That cross-training lets us be more resilient in the times to come. On the election side, we have 7 full-time staff members. Again, that number balloons up by about 200 extra help during an election. And we just had a really big one. And for everything I hear, it sounds like we did a pretty good job. Our staff just excelled, but it wasn't just our staff. It was a very broad community effort. You all were a part of it. CAO Hayes was in the mix there, helping us bring in ballots on election night with the treasurer tax collector, Amy Christensen, and you all. I can't say more about how well that went for us, given all of the circumstances in the last election cycle. Getting press like this and comments like Susan Moxon's. It's kind of a testament to us getting the job done. Daily operations, we're in the process of sweating now so we don't bleed later. And so right now we're working on our election administration plan for the next big election cycle. We're working with the Secretary of State's office to make sure that we learn a lot from what we did last time and keep things getting better and better. We're also preparing for ranked choice voting in the city of Eureka. That's going to be a massive lift. We saw it implemented in the city of Redondo Beach and learned a lot about where we can work on doing better. We're going to be hosting a big tabletop exercise in Eureka, where we're going to bring people from the city of Eureka, Hart InterCivic, which is our voting system vendor, the Secretary of State's office, the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center, and Disability Rights California. These are all folks that are going to spend the money to come out here and work with us in making sure that we break the process as much as possible so that we can fix it and make it stronger than before. The idea being that when we do ranked choice voting, we're going to do it excellently. Another thing that we've really worked on is taking the mystery out of what happens in an election. Transparency is like a really fundamental part of our office's philosophy. That QR code right there is one you can scan, and we collaborated with Access Humboldt in creating a how it's made like video of the life cycle of a ballot. And so that video will take you through everything from when you submit your vote by mail ballot all the way to when it turns into results on election night. So I encourage you to watch it, share it. It shows you kind of what's going on and demystifies that process. Trends that we saw in the elections office, we saw a higher than the state average in terms of participation in the last general election by about 6 percentage points, but we saw a decrease from the last presidential general in 2020 of about 5 percentage points. This shows you a point that I've been making lately in the press when it comes to the SAVE Act. One of the issues we have in our country and our county isn't that we have people voting that shouldn't be voting. The issue we have in our country and county is that we have folks that aren't voting that ought to be voting. And we're hoping to remedy that by continuing to meet people where they're at. We're prepping for the 2026 primary, making sure that folks understand that midterms matter. We're out in the community and engaging folks. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Any questions? Supervisor Wilson.
There's proposals to do dramatic cuts to federal election security offices, like gutting them completely. Do you think that will have an impact in our elections, or could that have an impact in our elections?
Yes. So Our office doesn't receive much, if any, regular funding from the federal and state government. Another thing that I have strong feelings about is that all of those jurisdictions have items on your ballot, but they don't really pay for the real estate like your supervisorial districts do or your special districts. However, organizations that have historically provided significant cybersecurity have disappeared. They're gone. We keep getting emails from agencies saying, you know, that it's my last day in the office and services are no longer going to be available. Our IT department has been amazing in backfilling those needs. I can't speak highly enough for the work they're doing in strengthening those weaknesses. But given their staffing levels and their funding, I can't help but think that we're not being left more vulnerable through that absence.
I appreciate that, and I emphasize that security and integrity in our election and locally has always been paramount and award-winning, and so I want to make sure that people of Humboldt County understand that, but understand that the vulnerabilities that are left open by the current administration is something to have some real concerns about. I want to also thank you for the opportunity to provide some weddings on Valentine's Day. That was very, and your idea around tourism is interesting because one of the weddings that I performed at River Beach was for a couple, one of whom was from Colombia, and there was family from at least 3 states here for that, as well as the parents online with that was really, it was really magical, super cute, and so and it seems like a selling point for maybe people coming from out of the area to tie the knot. So thanks for that. And also, I want to thank you for the efforts that you're doing on the ranked choice voting and around that. And I also found it interesting that the LOCO, our online news service, does these polls, and occasionally they're doing them using ranked choice voting so that people can try it out, or and I'm hoping that you're communicating with them a little bit to help at least within the framework of trying to make it as realistic as possible in terms of that format. So those are my comments, and thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you so much.
Really quick, I wanted to do kind of an after trailer item. Can I get that PowerPoint up? I've got one, I think they call them stingers, but I've got a little post-credit last teaser. We have an I Voted contest. Please have everyone you know participate. You can go to humboldtgov.org/elections to get materials. But last year we had our first time that we mailed you a vote by mail ballot. Next year will be the first time that Humboldt County will get to design it. And so we're going to have 2 different categories, 18 and over and 17 and under, but your constituents and you all, and if you have any kids or anybody in your friends and family that are interested, I really encourage you to put a submission in. I'm hoping to have, hundreds and hundreds of these. And the other thing is we're looking at Halloween as another day to have some spooky weddings. And so just more things to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, next will be treasurer tax collector. Hi, Amy.
Hey, good morning.
You're welcome to sit if you would like.
I think I'll stand. I'll
Okay.
take a cue from Juan.
Okay.
And I did have a PowerPoint.
Kaylee will pull it up. Yep.
Perfect.
There's also a clicker that you can use on the table so you can move through your slides easily.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Amy Christensen, representing Humboldt County's Treasurer Tax Collector's Office, and I wanted to take a moment to highlight some of the accomplishments of what I like to call our small but mighty department. We are holding steady at 8 full-time employees. As you can see highlighted on the slide, Between the 8 of us, we collected $192 million in secured property taxes this fiscal year. Our general fund allocation has been $463,000 for the last few fiscal years. And in fiscal year 23-24, we only utilized 43% or $200,000 of that general fund allocation given to us. And we are on pace to hit that same target again in this fiscal year. Our office also utilized your board's authorization to close to the public on Fridays in fiscal year 24-25. Being closed to the public allowed staff to complete the posting of December and April property tax payments a full week earlier than we typically do in previous years. And the dedicated time to process tax payments while we were closed to the public also prevented the need for hiring any extra help employees. So we saved the full $25,000 that I had budgeted last fiscal year and this fiscal year. For our Treasury budget unit, after property tax collections were complete, the investment portfolio hit a new high of $675 million. And Treasury staff worked closely with staff in the Auditor Controller's office. We went live countywide with the interactive cash receipts module in Finance Enterprise. Cash receipt postings in the general ledger are now current, along with bank reconciliations and interest apportionments. Communication and relationships between staff, managers, and department heads in both offices continue to be positive and impactful. And there are some more opportunities to continue to work with staff in the Auditor Controller's office and find ways to continue to automate and streamline the bank reconciliation process. That $675 million will continue to grow. I wanted to highlight that College of the Redwoods had a $120 million GO bond that was approved in the 2024 election. So they are working to fund the first series. That'll be $80 million additional coming into the county treasury this month in May. And they are working to build student housing at the Humboldt County campus and a student nursing hub up in Del Norte. And so I work closely with College of the Redwoods to manage that $80 million and make sure that it is available as they need it to fund construction. So we should definitely hit over $700 million by the end of next fiscal year. So we also have a revenue recovery division, and as their misdemeanor caseload continues to decline, and we took advantage again of being closed to the public on Fridays, we were able to implement another new project for some TOT outreach effort. And it was a great way to find a source of long-term general fund revenues annually that we can bring into the county. So we implemented a short-term rental compliance software. It's a cloud-based software, and it searches all short-term rental hosting platforms and reports data back to my department on the number of bookings and rates per location to ensure operators are remitting and reporting TOT tax dollars accurately to the county. The service also included a mass mailing to all of those identified STR operators to make them aware of the permit and license requirements at the county level. The permit and license fees are an important source of general fund revenue for my department and for planning and building. And if an operator is only listing on an STR platform, they might not even know that they need to be permitted and licensed with the county. So I ran the numbers. We're already $2,000 over in our business license application fee budget line. And as people get those business licenses for their STRs, those numbers will continue to grow long-term and bring money into the general fund. Another opportunity for revenue recovery to cross-train as they move away from court-ordered debt collections. In October of 2024, your board approved an agreement with American Financial Credit Services. They are an expert in collecting unsecured debt for municipalities across the United States. So we contracted with them. It is no fee to the county. They take on all of our unsecured property tax collections that we refer to them. They add their fee and then collect on our behalf. To date, they've collected $220,000. And I wanted to highlight that the unsecured tax redemption fee is now over in revenue by $8,200 and will continue to grow. And that's all I had for you guys today.
Thank you, Amy. Are there any questions? Supervisor Madrone.
Thank you for that report, appreciate it. On the short-term rental compliance software, how long have you had that in place?
Just a few months.
Just a few months? Okay.
Since the new year, 2025.
Pretty new information, yeah. What's your sense of compliance? I mean, can you even figure that out, or is that something you have to do with planning? In terms of the number of STRs out there that are actually
So the company found 417 actively listed on the Airbnb, or all the different platforms that people can rent. And so now, as we send out those letters and bring people in, we're finding who has permits and who doesn't. But I don't have firm numbers for you yet. We're still really parsing through all that data and working to see who has a permit, who has a business license, who has none, and who is still in the queue working with the county.
Great, look forward to that future report. Thank
Yes.
you.
According to planning and building, there are around 220 STR permits right now.
220 permits, but they found 417.
Active listings and
About half of them
unincorporated.
have sought permits. Just rough numbers, there could be other details. Right, absolutely, just from that data that's
Yeah.
available right now.
Yeah. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, we will, thanks, Amy, so much.
you.
We'll move on. Does anybody on the board wish to have a break? Are we good? 5-minute break. So we will be back here at 10:35. Attorney's office. You can either stand or sit at the table.
I'd like to stand.
Okay, no
Thank you so
problem.
much.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Stacy East. I'm the District Attorney of Humboldt County. Thank you so much for this opportunity to address yourselves. I am really grateful for this chance to share what we've been now I've got the clicker. Okay. And so thank you so much. So I have 60 employees that are budgeted with the Humboldt County District Attorney's Office. So we have a staff that's a wonderful administrative crew, supports the work we do. We have legal service professionals, victim advocates, investigators, IT professionals, and of course, attorneys. Our 25-26 budget is here, and per the directive of your board, we are staying within our same allotment for the general fund to keep the work that we do moving forward. So we're appreciative of sort of, you know, the request that we stay within the same amount that was distributed for the work we do last year. We'll move forward on that same budgeted amount. Naturally, as others in their presentations have discussed, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of unknowns in terms of how grant funding will you know, ultimately be awarded in the future. But our plan is to move forward and watch, listen, and if necessary, we'll pivot and keep doing the work we do for Humboldt County. So we have our total budget is just about $10 million. A substantial portion is grant funding, so that's funding that the people within the office bring forward and make the programs work. We also have asset forfeiture and a number of state funds to prosecute crimes. So our administrative team are really key. You know, they're the folks that keep things going. They are the ones that, you know, prepare and file our complaints, process the paperwork that we go through. They are also really helping us in a big way in terms of being more efficient and effective, and of course that can make it more economical. So one of the big things that we've done is we've sent a good team of administrative staff members, those folks that are highlighted there in the center. They went back east to learn how we can more effectively and efficiently use our case management program. So we've gone live with doing a vast majority of our criminal charging through our case management system, which is, you know, a much larger undertaking than one might think. Rochelle Davis, our office manager, prepared a direction book for how we could go about that charging, and it's over 40 pages of directions on just how to charge a criminal complaint within the case management system. So it's a real significant undertaking. So very grateful for all of the folks that keep things going, send out the thousands of subpoenas that we send out every year to keep the criminal cases prosecuted. We have also worked to cross-train as many of our administrative staff folks so people can take vacations, so people, when they're sick, and also just to, you know, keep things as efficient as possible, and so that everyone can, you know, have an important role in the work that we do throughout. We have a great criminal investigations division led by Chief Investigator Kyla Baxley. She currently has 10 full-time investigators on her team. She also has the assistance of 3 investigations analysts who, each of whom, you know, bring great expertise in their individual areas and are of great benefit to keep the operations running. The investigators do a tremendous amount of work within our office and within the community, working very directly with our law enforcement agency partners. The critical incident response team, we have a very key role in when there's critical incidents within the community and responding and taking co-lead those investigations. We also provide a lot of assistance and support for major crimes investigations with our local law enforcement agencies. So, you know, even prior to the filing of charges, we're there and we're involved with our investigative unit. Another important task is service of subpoenas and locating witnesses, our drug task force involvement in investigations, providing trial support. So one of the things that we've done a lot of is having investigators there involved and engaged as the case is presented. So that's very helpful with the management of witnesses, the presentation of evidence, assisting the deputy district attorney as they present the case within the court. So I'm very grateful that we have well-seasoned experts. Really, I was speaking with someone the other day and just tried to explain, but the reality is that our investigators are really the cream of the crop, good people that know what's going on and are working hard to bring justice for Humboldt County. And we have 5 full-time advocates working on Nikki Miranda's victim witness advocate team. So Nikki's our victim witness program coordinator. She also has 3 additional support staff people that help with reception and the management of claims. I'm going to talk a little bit more about all the work that our victim witness advocate team does later in my presentation. I already heard this term be used, but in terms of our deputy district attorney team, I was going to refer to them, and they certainly are a small but mighty team. They really are truly fighting on behalf of the people of the state of California, people of Humboldt, for justice on a day-to-day basis. We currently have only 11 full-time deputy DAs. So we are down about 7 deputy DAs to where we should be if we were fully staffed. Thankfully, we do have the assistance of 4 retired annuitants who have a lot of expertise and provide assistance in the areas of charging. They're there to provide advice and guidance, help with search warrant reviews, and also some of our resentencing petitions that have come to us thanks to some changes in the law a few years ago. Last spring, we did lose, I believe it was after I gave this last presentation, we lost 3 deputy DAs. Each of them departed the office and left for another county where they were able to earn about $20 per hour more. They were closer to their family, which was a great personal benefit to them, but even more significant, and they're making that choice, was that they would have access to better medical care than what was available to them here in Humboldt County. So that's an ongoing issue for us, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. We're also have the opportunity to have a number of interns that come and assist, and so we're very grateful that we have the assistance of folks that are not actual deputy district attorneys to help us continue on. So, but for the fact that we have such a strong investigations team, but for the fact that we have such a strong administrative team, but for the fact that we have a strong victim witness advocates team, we wouldn't be able to prosecute the cases that we prosecute. It's that simple. So every person is extremely critical to keeping the operations moving forward. We also continue to have a number of vertical prosecution teams that address certain types and focus areas, special types of crimes within the community. We do have a fraud unit. We have the narcotics vertical prosecution, retail theft prosecution, which is somewhat new to Humboldt County. We brought that in via a grant-funded program, which I think is really significant in terms of looking at how the district attorney's office can help support the local economy by supporting our retailers. We have a vertical prosecution team for violence against women cases, elder abuse cases, and of course the child abuse services team and sexual assault unit. So moving forward in regards to our accomplishments, the district attorney's team over the course of primarily, since I last spoke with you folks, we'll highlight some of those things that have happened over mostly calendar year 2024. So number 1 job for the district attorney's office is to protect the public. And in doing that, we work to enforce the laws of our community. We do so in a fair and just manner as we prosecute crime. I have this little chart that really does a little bit of a comparison of how we've handled case filings over the years. One of the things that I've added to this information is the number of law enforcement referrals. So law enforcement referrals are really just police reports that come to us asking for crimes to be charged against individuals within Humboldt County for crimes committed in Humboldt County. So we've processed 6,400 law enforcement reports in 2024. There are many routes that an individual police report can take. So not all cases are filed in criminal court and result in a new case filing. But what you can see is that in 2024, we did file 1,081 felonies and 2,711 misdemeanor level cases. Some of those charges that come to us from our law enforcement agencies are ultimately consolidated. So, one case can be matched up with another and put into the same case filing. They could be filed as a violation of probation. They could take a diversion, a pre-filing diversion route. They could simply be rejected because of, it might be interest of justice grounds. Perhaps the conduct has already been adequately addressed via arrest. Perhaps the elements of the crime are not present within the referral. And a referral could also be pended for further investigation, or for us to, hear back from the parties involved regarding what they'd like to see of an outcome. So the two pictures on the bottom there are attorneys, and they're just showing those are the cases that they're scheduled to appear on that particular day. So we call that door art up in our office, and so the attorneys are given door art for the cases that they need to appear on. And the fellow on the right there, he actually got more door that day that went on up around his entire door. So, when I say they're working hard, I mean it. So he's well known for that. I don't know how he does it. So we've got at this moment in time 796 active felony cases that the attorneys are handling. So I looked back, and when I prepared for this presentation last year, when we just took a moment in time look, we had about 100 less active felony cases at that time. So I have less attorneys doing more. And this is our layout of how many misdemeanor cases that we have, close to 1,200 active misdemeanor cases. I think it's a little bit less than what we had in terms of misdemeanors for active cases. And this just kind of gives you a little sampling of the types of cases. We have, the domestic violence, child abuse, elder abuse, assault and battery, always a lot of DUIs. I did notice, though, when I looked at the numbers compared to where we were at last year with our little window, that although we were up on the number of domestic violences, we're down in all the other categories. So we have fewer DUIs, theft, school truancy, and folks out to warrant. So that's another bit that we're always kind of addressing, is reviewing cases, and we really want to bring those folks that have failed to appear on their cases and had warrants issued back to address and take responsibility for their individual cases. We, as I outlined earlier, do get a ton of grant support, and really that takes a lot of involvement by the staff within the office for, writing the grants, applying for the grants, complying and reporting to the grants. So just, bringing those funds in to do the important work is quite a task and undertaking. And it's, work that's done by individuals throughout the office. So I mentioned earlier a lot of the work that the investigators do, but who would think that they're actually some of our best grant writers as well. And they also do the compliance and the data collection, and so that we can keep those funds coming in so we can continue to prosecute our cases. We have had continued successful prosecution of our cases during the course of 2024, and definitely now into 2025. In 2024, we took 34 jury trials to verdict. That's a lot. 26 of those were felony cases, 8 were misdemeanor. And one important thing that we just like to highlight is that out of those 34, 10 of them were defended by private attorneys, so not by our local public defender's offices. So we're working with attorneys, well beyond just, the court-appointed local attorneys, public office attorneys. The overall conviction rate for misdemeanors and felonies combined is 84% convictions. And that's a really good statistic as well, because oftentimes the cases that we take to trial are those that are really disputed, and they need to go to trial, and they need to be decided by our jurors and our local community in terms of whether they believe the crimes have been committed. So I think that that's well representative of the cases that need to go to trial, go to trial. We continue to do our work with tribes. I'm going to be entering into a memorandum of understanding for a diversion Trinidad Rancheria Wellness Court operation. I expect that to be later this month. We still are ongoing with diversion program, that diverts people from the Superior Court criminal justice system to their tribal wellness court. So in lieu of being prosecuted, convicted within the state court, folks that have that opportunity might be diverted to their tribal wellness court, where they can have supervision and access to services and accountability in what is arguably far more culturally appropriate circumstances. So we're really excited about that continued opportunity. Of course, in entering into those, not everybody's potentially eligible. We look at what type of crime has been alleged, as well as the offender's history, and always take, public safety into consideration as our number one concern. We have had a significant increase in the number of participants, so that's, reflective of the success of the program as well. Mental health diversion has been a growing part of the criminal court justice system within California courts throughout, including Humboldt County. So we've seen a pretty steady increase of folks that are being referred for mental health diversion. So this is something that the legislator contemplated, and it's part of our laws, that folks that commit almost any type of crime, there's a very small number of crimes that are excluded from being eligible. But if a person has a mental health disorder that's a significant factor in the commission of their criminal conduct, then they may ultimately be found eligible and appropriate candidate to go on to a mental health behavioral treatment plan in lieu of being prosecuted in the criminal court. So another path that avoids convictions, but does ideally provide services so that the individual will not continue to engage in criminal behavior and hopefully be a healthier, productive member of our community. We are coming to the end of the prosecutor-initiated resentencing program, which we were one of the, I think it was 13 counties total, so we were one of them that had the opportunity to be part of this. I reviewed a lot of cases, much of that with the assistance of Deputy District Attorney Shelley Small, and ultimately, based upon the criteria that I put in place, we had one individual that I deemed amenable to the prosecutor-initiated resentencing. So he was resentenced, I think about a month ago or so, and he should now be on parole and at a 2-year in-house treatment program, pretty intensive program. He had served 26 years out of a 25 years to life sentence. All of his crimes were first-degree burglaries. No hands-on violence. I do think first-degree burglary is a very serious offense. He had demonstrated a high level of remorse, and he also had done a lot of programs during the course of his time within the prison system. And one of the things that really helped me in the decision-making, on top of just the review of lots of documents regarding his behaviors, was the fact that he expressed gratitude when I went to meet with him at the Pelican State Prison, and he expressed gratitude just for the opportunity to meet with us, and he was really clear that he thought the victim's input was number one in terms of what decision I ultimately made, as well as just that he was very clear to me that whatever decision I made, he was at peace with, and I appreciated that. And so I'm, grateful for the victims to taking into consideration and their assistance in reaching the decision that we made, and the court, granted the resentencing as we petitioned. We do a lot of work, as much as we can, working out in the community and really trying to address prevention type measures. And I think one of the best things that we can do in that regard is to work with youth within our community. So I'm really grateful for our investigator Tim Marcelon, who was very involved with the Parent Project and putting that on, which is a kind of a hands-on, trying to help parents be the best that they can be to the benefit of our families. We've done a number of school tours and bringing kids into the office. We were involved in the Every 15 Minutes program this year. All of this is, to bring education, some heightened awareness, provide positive role models for the youth within our community, and really to engage with folks. So it's just our way of trying to, invest in families and youth within our community and hopefully make a difference and give a different image of law enforcement as a whole. And now I'm going to turn to the School Attendance Review Board, and Martin Morris, who's been working on the School Attendance Review Board since 2016. I want him to share a little bit because I think this is so important in terms of addressing the ACEs within our community. And it's just part of what the District Attorney's Office does that I'm not sure that the community at large is really aware of. So thank you, Martin.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to address you folks. I've been brought in for just this one slide, so I'll be brief. Since 2016, I have been involved in the District Attorney's effort to combat student absenteeism around the county. There are 17,000 students in public schools in this county, and those students are subject to California Education Code and California Penal Codes. The graphics that you're looking at are statistics related to our efforts for the 24-25 fiscal year. There are 4 school attendance review boards around the county, and the schools, when they notice a student's absenteeism is out of compliance with the California Education Code and Penal Codes, they refer them to the school attendance review boards. This last year we had 270 referred to the boards, and our efforts at the board level, I participate in all of those, on all those boards. There's about 65 meetings a year. Out of the 270, we had about 80% success rate correcting this absenteeism for the students just at the board level. And 41 of those students had their parents referred to school attendance court because we were unable to correct the absenteeism rate at the SARB level. So bringing in the parents into the school attendance court program was equally successful percentage-wise. And what you're looking at there is only 3 parents out of all of the county's children this year that were unsuccessful in correcting the absenteeism of their students, 17,000 to 3. So the program is very successful. I absolutely appreciate the funding and the direction from the DA to be involved at this level. It is my professional and personal opinion that kids who are in school are out of delinquent behaviors. Kids that are out of delinquent behaviors create healthy adults, less prosecutions, less criminality, and it's better for all of us. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. And in that same light, I can't not recognize the fact that the school attendance review boards were recognized by the California Department of Education for their exemplary practices that have contributed to reducing chronic absenteeism rates and improving student attendance. So both our Eureka City schools and the Humboldt County Office of Education programs are recognized for this. So that's a tremendous. We continue to engage in as many community educational awareness events, out tabling as much as we're able, educating the community. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about our Victim Witness program, which has been ongoing since 1982. The District Attorney Witness Program, our advocates help literally thousands of crime victims and witnesses every year. So this chart outlines the number of contacts, interactions that our advocates have with victims or witnesses in connection with crime. So in 2024, you can see that they made, the 4,623 people that they've helped. That's a lot of contact, a lot of assistance. The Humboldt County District Attorney Victim Witness Advocate Program also helps victims in seeking claims for the financial harm that they've suffered as a result of crime. And what the chart on the left tries to demonstrate is the difference between if someone has help or if they don't have help. So the green bar is, you know, striking down to the lower half of the orange and red bars. That demonstrates people that have applied for themselves, so it's a much lower number. And then we can see that those that are processed, you know, by the Humboldt County Victim Compensation through our Victim Witness Unit, those folks have much higher level of success in getting their claims processed and to being reimbursed for the harm that's done. So that's another important piece that our advocate program does. And, oh, these are hard to read. So the victim advocates are, of course, working, you know, very closely with victims of crime, and these are quotations that are, you know, testimonials provided by actual victims that have worked with their advocates. And, you know, I think I'll just go down to the, perhaps the victim of indecent exposure, and where that individual, you know, indicated, you guys rock, you have women's backs, I feel important, and I felt heard. So really that's a huge goal of ours. If we can make people feel what they are, which is important, and if we can make them feel and actually have what they should, that opportunity to be heard, we've done our job. And we really just, it's incredible to me that all that work is done, you know, by 5 advocates, you know, with the leadership that Nikki provides and the guidance, and then the support staff as well that we have within the division. And again, we help give a voice to the once voiceless. CAST continues on with engaging in the community, working with our community partners. A huge shout out to DHHS, who continues to support the important work with CAST. And I know these are difficult times, but they have managed to help assist us in actually funding and keeping staff engaged and involved in CAST. And so that's something we're extremely grateful for. Super thankful for all of our law enforcement partners that, you know, work with us in CAST sensitive cases. North Coast Rape Crisis Team also having significant financial struggles. They continue to assist, and, you know, they make every effort to be present and attend and offer their advocacy services during the course of any CAST interview. Very grateful for them, and I hope that they're able to get the funding that they need to continue on with their important work. Very grateful for the tribal partners, as well as the SART caseworkers that help us do the work, ideally, that will minimize harm and, you know, support children and families when something bad has happened. We continue to work with Adult Protective Services, Humboldt County Sheriff's, and the Public Guardian for our EVAS, the Elderly and Vulnerable Adults Services Team. So we have an investigator that works and meets with these folks regularly so they can talk about cases and the overlap of, in particular with elders who may be taken advantage of, physically abused, and also financial abuse is something that's pretty significant and sadly impacts elders within our community. The organized retail theft vertical prosecution team has been doing lots of work trying to figure out what the level of retail theft is that occurs within Humboldt County. So it's been a really great effort to reach out to retailers, work with them, encourage them to report crime. So we've seen actually increased incidences of reporting, which is exactly what we want. If we don't know about it, we can't help address the problem. So we did learn from the loss prevention folks at the Bayshore Mall that they've actually seen a noticeable decline in trespassing as well as theft incidences since the inception of our program. And they've been, really working close with our district attorney, deputy district attorney, as well as our district attorney investigators. And I thought an important bit too in connection with this is we have Prop 36, which the voters passed in the fall and came into effect in December of 2024. So since Prop 36 came into effect, we have filed 15 of the repeat offender petty theft individuals. So the person that had prior convictions for theft-related offenses and is stealing again. So we have been able to locate and target those 15 offenders. So I know one of the concerns was this was going to be a tremendous volume, and frankly, it's really not. It's kind of what we anticipated in terms of there's this small group of offenders that are consistently reoffending. So we're grateful that the voters gave us the opportunity to have some tools to help address that conduct and hopefully protect our retailers. So this breakdown of the loss and recovery is just our administrative analyst who does a lot of data collection for theft-related offenses in our cases that come to us. This is just the loss that we know of that is lots directly related to stolen goods. So it doesn't have anything to do with like lost time for employees that it takes or the expense of having to have security guards or things of that nature, heightened security. It's just the dollar loss for the goods that are stolen. So it's the total loss, just shy of $250,000 since we implemented our retail theft program. So I suspect that's just a drop in the bucket in terms of the actual loss that retailers suffer in connection with theft. Our Violence Against Women Vertical Prosecution Team is a team that's directed to have a smaller caseload targeting those offenders that their behaviors and histories present a higher lethality factor. So we really want to channel our resources to those most serious offenders and hopefully hold them accountable. We've had an increase in the number of filings. So the light blue in the center there shows the number of cases that were filed in 2024 relative to 2023. So there's quite an uptick, but very grateful for the Deputy District Attorney, investigator, and advocate that are working on that caseload. It's a very serious, very important. The Great Renovation Project. So thank you so much for the support from the CAO's office, the board, and the multiple county departments to address, what had been our workspace within the district attorney's office. So on the picture to the left, that's what our break facility. It wasn't a room. It was just a little space that was very worn, and there was nowhere for staff to take a break away from their desks. It was a huge undertaking. Our investigators had to move across the street. People crammed into small workspaces, but ultimately we were able to do great things. And the work of this is our new break room, and it's really so exciting to have this space for the professionals within our office. And the beautiful cabinetry that Lindsay was able to do. He's just quite the artist. So very grateful for having this. And also it's a great space for law enforcement officers that are waiting to testify. So they'll go in there and hang out. So that's an added bonus that we now have a good place for our professionals to wait when their cases are in court. Our goals continue to be the same, really, just to enhance community safety by the prosecution of crime in a fair and timely manner. We always will prioritize violent crimes and those that are perpetrated against vulnerable victims. We continue to engage with our community partners, addressing organized retail theft, elder abuse, fentanyl, It's still a tremendous issue for us to address. Protecting our local businesses, protecting the vulnerable, working to improve our case management, and continuing to work with our community partners. We are enhancing our case management system, and we are always going to have the goal to serve our community with integrity, compassion, and respect. We are working on bringing in more deputy district attorneys. And frankly, I don't know how we can do this when we don't have a competitive wage. We have to acknowledge that reality for professionals that have advanced degrees and a tremendous experience. So we want to have competent, qualified professionals come to Humboldt County and help serve within our office. So we encourage anyone, if you know someone that might be interested, please send them my way. The other important bit in order to continue with the good work that the District Attorney's Office does, and each of the folks in there, is to have some sort of retention. Benefits would be amazing, but to keep the people that we have in the office, we have to pay them competitive wages that acknowledge the professional expertise that they have and the service that they provide to the community. These are not 9-to-5 jobs by any means. Folks take this stuff to their hearts, and they're in one way or the other always doing the work that they do through the District Attorney's Office. We have a great team of investigators, great attorneys, and so whatever you folks can do in your decision making, I really appreciate your acknowledgement of them and the service that they provide to the community. So I just want to say thank you so much, and I am also really appreciative of the increase in the Measure Z funding that this board authorized, so thank you for that. That's very helpful to our office and continuing with the work that we do. We appreciate your support and support of public safety. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? No? Well, thank you for the presentation. That was very detailed. I love the SARB stuff because it impacts the kids so much. Like you said, Martin, it's really great when they're in school. And it's really, that we are doing that work is great too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we are going to hear from Chris, I believe, from the library. And the whole room's going to leave. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
You could sit at the table or stand.
Okay. It looks like we're going to sit.
Okay. Turn on your mics. Yeah, you both can sit if you'd like. And then just make sure you turn your mics on. Did you get the clicker? Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay. Nice to see everyone. Thank you, Chair Bushnell and the board for giving me the opportunity to share on libraries. So, libraries are vital lifelines and community focal points for the people of Humboldt, offering books and learning resources in print and digital formats, providing programs for people of all ages, supporting literacy, research, well-being, local history, and creativity. The library provides free resources and services. The department is committed to providing access, fun, and engagement for all. The library department cannot do this without your support. The library is fortunate to have gifted and committed staff, volunteers who are generous with their time and the support of library communities. And to help and guide the library moving forward, we have awesome colleagues, throughout the county. Our Public Works Department, Purchasing, our AC's office, the CAO, Human Resources, and community-based organizations also help us. We have the Humboldt Library Foundation, our major fundraiser for the library, the Friends of the Redwood Libraries, and the Friends groups across the system. So this is Kara Fales to my right, and she's the Administrative Services Officer for the department, and she has been really instrumental in helping us develop the budget. So we have libraries in 12 locations. We have a bookmobile that serves the smaller rural communities, and a new program called Library at Your Door, which provides folks who have access barriers, home delivery services in the communities of Arcata, Fortuna, and Eureka. Tell you a little bit about the presentation. I'll start off by looking at some performance measures, talking a little bit about staffing, and our achievements, accomplishments, and goals looking forward. I pivoted a little bit in how I want to present kind of the financial piece of this, rather than giving a general overview at the end or showing how nimble the library has been in identifying alternative revenue streams to support programs and initiatives. As I go through some of the accomplishments and goals, I can discuss the funding there and how that has augmented what we receive in property tax revenues. Okay, here are the numbers. Looking at checkouts of physical items, our numbers are very steady, looking at about 350,000, and that's projected out for the end of this fiscal year. It's been on a strong incline since COVID. It's leveled off a little bit. We're seeing more people accessing our digital content, our e-magazines, our e-audio, and e-books. And it's just touching to see the kind of numbers and how we continue to be relevant for our community. Our digital content is still vital. We experienced a huge jump right prior to COVID and after COVID. On the onset of COVID, I think we were doing somewhere around 2,000 uses, and I know that's gone up. It went up to 10, and it's up around 13. It looks like about 130,000. Uses right now, and that is a part of our resources we want to continue to augment and support. Library program attendance continues to grow. We're offering programs at locations with no history of rich programming, so we have programming in all of our locations. We're trying to do more and more for teens and other underserved populations, and we want to continue to strive and raise the bar for what we're offering in terms of program diversity, program access, and meeting the needs for the kind of an increasingly growing community with diverse interests. And we continue to sign people up for new accounts, either in person with a library card or through an e-account where folks who have difficulty getting into the library can access our databases and electronic content from their homes. And we have great support from community-based organizations. The Humboldt Library Foundation, as I've mentioned, the Friends of the Redwood Libraries, the Rose Perrinan Foundation support open hours and programming and the library's collection in Fortuna. We have friends groups in all locations that are very dynamic, and the McLean Foundation has supported a couple of library initiatives recently, both the Library at Your Door delivery program and the Garberville Library Lobby Gallery. We couldn't do this without an incredible staff and team. We have people who work very hard, they're creative, they're flexible, they're engaged in leadership, and we really try to build that in with our organizational culture. We're very committed to staff development. We've experienced 8 retirements in the last year and a half with employees with an average tenure of 40 years. So bringing new people in has been a great change for us, and bringing new energy to the library, although we do, miss some of that institutional knowledge. Here's a picture of our staff and security guard out front. The library, here are some of the new faces. We have hired some people internally, some people from outside California, from Idaho. And I think we've been very fortunate to have people who are really committed to bringing positive change and engagement for all. Some of our accomplishments. We have all of our libraries on broadband, so as of August 2024, we accomplished that goal. That project started in 2005, so it's been a 19-year journey, so the residents of Ferndale are very happy with that. And that project was made largely by funding through the California State Library's Scenic program. We have offered very diverse training in leadership. With new staff, we really want to be committed to retaining our staff and providing them with tools and strategies to be the best leaders they can be. I have 6 staff who've gone through the CSAC training. I have 2 that will be graduating from the newly kind of reinvented Supervisor Academy offered by the County of Humboldt, and I had 3 staff attend the next level training offered by the Eureka Chamber of Commerce Women in Leadership program. And it's ongoing. We really don't have that philosophy of one and done, but we want to build on trainings people have received and continue to offer them and continue to offer that support. These are photos from our volunteer library day. Was part of National Library Week. And see if I have that. I thought I wrote down something very important about this. Yes. So we have 104 volunteers system-wide, and they provide 8,577 hours of service. That was for fiscal year 23-24. So we're really leveraging the talents and gifts of people who have chosen the library to be a place where they want to offer their time and support, whether it be shelving books, participating in online book sales, or raising money through capital campaigns. We completed a library project. We received money from the California State Library for building projects for the Arcata, Eureka, and Fortuna libraries. We've made ADA accessible restrooms available in Arcata. And we also provided a changing station there and made the facility much more inviting and provided cane accessible water station and drinking fountains. We received $15,000 from the Save the Children Foundation to make our locations more attractive, more inviting, more engaging for our visitors. And we received funding primarily through the Humboldt Library Foundation for our Library at Your Door program, which launched, I believe it was in August 2024. And it's been extremely popular, and we're able to reach people that have had struggles in the past accessing library services. couple of projects coming up. We received money from the State Library for critical maintenance and life safety projects for the Eureka Library and Fortuna Library. Those grants sunset in June 26, and we're working with Public Works on those projects, and the CAO's office, the ADA compliance team, is helping on the Fortuna project. We hope to offer rotating art exhibits in all of our locations. The McLean Foundation funded this art gallery at the Garberville location. We also have rotating exhibits at the Eureka and Arcata libraries to highlight community artists, and we want to expand that to all of our locations. And we're currently involved in a capital campaign to replace our bookmobile. Humboldt County has had bookmobile service for 70 years. We have a long history of serving residents in remote or isolated communities. And the bookmobile really is a benefit for them, offering the vast resources that we have to offer. It could be the newest bestseller, it could be a kids program, it could be materials for, educational or entertainment needs. For some students living in communities where there aren't school libraries, the bookmobile provides their only access to the library. Our current bookmobile was purchased in 2005. It's logged over 200,000 miles, and it's out of date. Replacement parts are no longer available, so we either have to scavenge them or have them fabricated. The heater and air conditioner doesn't work. The wipers work only intermittently, and the interior fluorescent lights have been disconnected. Often we miss stops or have to postpone or reschedule. Outbound services team members have been really resilient, and they've been able to do their best by, providing some modified continuity of service through using motor pool vehicles, but that's not sustainable. Replacement cost is about $382,915. We have $108,750 in depreciation, and the foundation has already secured $125,000 through their capital campaign that has been going for about 3 weeks. So we are very confident that we'll reach that target number with our funding goal at $139,500 as we move further along with our capital campaign. We also want to really expand our social media presence to engage with the public, provide them with information on upcoming initiatives, upcoming programs, where our services are, get better at connecting people with what we have to offer. We are also currently writing a grant to improve the library meeting spaces, making them more welcoming, making them places where, people can have small meetings, whether it's, for a class, or if they have a small business, a place where they can convene, inviting spaces where they can stay a while, check out some books, talk to friends. We think that's really paramount to have all of our spaces very inviting for folks. Another challenge we've had is our security system is fairly antiquated. We've had times, particularly at the Garberville location, when it wasn't working properly, and the functionality was difficult for our staff to navigate. There were a lot of phone calls, lots of visits to the library to make sure the doors closed properly and would open when we needed to open. So building security is a huge priority. coming up this year, we hope to replace that system, and as well as our system at the Eureka Library. And then building on our organizational culture, keep having opportunities to train, work on being more effective communicators, work on our relationships with our organizations that support us, looking for ways to forge bonds with new organizations, and continue to make the library a place where people feel empowered and supported, and a place where they love their job. Then we also want to improve our technology, look at digital printing, or wireless printing, where somebody could come in with their laptop or phone and print directly to a printer. So making that user interface more functional for everyone, and quicker and more intuitive. Another thing that we just received funding from the Library Foundation is 2 new microfilm readers for the Humboldt room and our research area on the 2nd floor. So we had 2 machines that were no longer working, and many residents are very interested and needing those resources, whether they're writing a book or just looking at family history. And yes, our goals continue to engage with community. We want to continue to look at ways we can find alternative revenue streams, whether it's federal grants, state grants, local foundations, developing new partners, and really raising the bar in terms of what we can provide for our library customers. It's a very rewarding job, and I appreciate the board's support. I appreciate the community's support. It's very fulfilling, and we really just want to continue to offer the best we can for Humboldt residents. All right, that's about all I have. Any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Supervisor Madron.
Thanks for your presentation. I'm just curious, it's well known that staff in the library system hang around for decades, right? Decades and decades. I mean, some of them have been there 40, 45 years. So do you think books add to longevity?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think just being in a service-oriented field also, and a field where people choose to come and visit and connect with what we have and what we do.
Yeah, well, kudos to staff for their incredible dedication.
Can I just add the environment at the library, from someone who worked in other departments and moved there, I think I've been there 10 months, is amazing. It's great.
Yeah, thank you.
I think I did, but it's an amazing environment.
Thank you.
Lots of good stuff.
Supervisor Arroyo.
Thank you. Could you go back over the security needs that you have, just so I'm clear on what that consists of, just so as we're making kind of strategic decisions countywide?
Okay. Primarily, it's building security and the locking system and the interface that works with that, and ways that we can connect remotely to that system. Because currently I think it's just antiquated, and it's difficult. We have to make several calls to IT to remind them, we need to shut this down, rather than just being able to preset every week when we want the library to open and close. If we have a special program need to stay open later, we would be able to do it on the fly. Our current system doesn't allow us that kind of flexibility, and we can only work 1 week to the next week. We can't do anything in advance past that. So there are just limitations on the system. If we have something that comes up.
Any other questions? No? I thank you for the presentation, and in my district, I have quite a few, Fortuna, Rio Dell, and Garberville, and the bookmobile goes to Densmore and out Highway 36, and those areas being pretty remote and rural, really key on the library. Garberville especially, it's very well used, a new facility down there, and so I appreciate all that the library brings to join those communities together. And the one in Fortuna as well is very well used, and Rio Dell. So thank you. Okay, you are done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. So next we will have Public Works and Director Mattson. And then just an update, we'll have aviation after this, and then the public defender's not able to make it today. Right. Oh, sorry, auditor and aviation, and then Public Works is not able to make it today. So then
Public Works is right here.
I'm sorry, public defender. Jeez. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for allowing me the time to present this year's budget to you. Tom Mattson, Director of Public Works. Okay. As you can see, we've got about 183 full-time equivalents. That's down a few from last year. We were at about 200 last year. Total expenditures by program is approximately $96 million this year. Oops. We have, oops, got a typo there. 6 different divisions, and I'm also going to talk a little bit about our recommended Measure O plan that will be coming to your board in June. So starting with our engineering division. We did 31 storm damage repair projects last year, 1 bridge replacement project, 1 safety project, 1 trail project, and 1 pavement rehab project. Designed 81 storm damage repair projects, 3 bridge maintenance projects, 6 bridge replacement projects, and 6 safety projects, 2 accessibility projects, and 3 fish passage projects. And we managed state, federal, tribal, and local funding for 141 storm damage project repair locations, 4 bridge maintenance projects, 11 bridge replacement projects, 10 safety projects, 1 trail project, 2 accessibility projects, and 1 fish passage projects. So we were extremely busy last summer in our engineering department. We are bringing forward another slew of projects this summer. A lot of safety projects, completing the Honeydew Bridge, and then we're going to jump into Measure O projects. This is the bridge in Honeydew that hopefully will be finished this summer. We started on it last summer. Environmental Services has 6 different budget units underneath it: water management, natural resources planning, roads, natural resources, parks, trails, McKinleyville Community Forest, and brownfield remediation. They are also managing the Table Bluff closed landfill. We actually are working with Cal Recycle to get a bunch of state funding to redesign the cap on that and dealing with the leachate issue. But the main issue this year in Environmental Services Division is we are facing a wall in our funding for parks and trails. We represent Humboldt County in negotiations regarding PG&E dam removal on the Upper Eel River and future water diversions. We're doing sea level rise planning and flood hazard reduction projects. We maintain 3 county levees and municipal stormwater permit administration in both McKinleyville and the greater Eureka area. Eel River Groundwater Management. We are the staff for the Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Site investigation and remediation for impacted county-owned properties, and efforts to make Humboldt County's 1959 Trinity River water contract operational. Again, we have a list of accomplishments. Eel River Potter Valley, we've been heavily involved in that. Redwood Creek Estuary is moving forward. Humboldt Bay Living Shoreline Project is actually very exciting and leading edge in the nation. groundwater and stormwater projects, maintained our 3 federal levees, and working with partners to advance large-scale restoration and flood hazard reduction projects on 3 of our areas that flood regularly every year: Jacoby Creek, Elk River, and the Salt River Williams Creek area. The Environmental Resources Division, Planning Division, this is our North Coast Resource Partnership, the 7-county and tribal collaborative, and the Humboldt County Fire Safe Council that we staff. We did a community to wildfire protection plan update, wildfire preparedness project support for all of the other agencies doing great work in the county, regional grant administration for the North Coast Resource Partnership, and climate resilience planning. Environmental, the Roads Natural Resources does most of the permitting for all of our projects that we do out there. As you realize, many of these projects have to have CEQA NEPA compliance studies, and we do all of that, and we deal with the effects of storm damage and the after-the-fact permitting that we have to do during storm damage. The Parks, Trails, and McKay Community Forest, we operate and maintain improvements for 16 county parks. The Hammond Trail, new 4-mile segment of Humboldt Bay Trail is going to be open this summer, and we're working with the city of Arcata with they're going to construction on the Annie and Mary Trail that will end up in the county. Timber management, recreation, and resource conservation for the 1,200-acre McKay Community Forest. Again, a list of a number of accomplishments that were completed or managed. We work with volunteer trail stewards on a regular basis to get them to help maintain our trails. Big Loon County Park Improvement Project, that was going with the CAO's office with an ADA compliance, and we were looking at a $400,000 state grant as well because we have problems with the septic system there that need to be taken care of. A Humboldt Bay Trail South project is underneath our Parks Division. Trail planning study from Eureka to College of the Redwoods, which is funded by the state of California, is going on, and we are working on the federal earmark that we were able to get from Congressman Huffman several years ago for the Hammond Bridge replacement, and we're still working on trying to get a reasonable non-industrial timber harvest management plan with the state for the McKay Community Forest. But there are problems. Costs are up and revenues are down. Especially with parks, we ran into a premium during COVID, especially when the state closed all of their parks because we were the only game in town, and we had a lot of revenue coming in. That has backed off drastically. We have very, very little staffing for all of our parks that we have. We left a position open in 24-25 for salary savings, and our level of service is suffering. We're getting a lot of illegal dumping at areas that we can't get out to very often. We have a structural deficit at this point. We're seeing increasing levels of damage and deterioration. Generally, we have tried to keep parks off of the general fund for our facilities out there and trying to use grants. We're past that point at this, and we're going to be needing to tap into the county's deferred maintenance trust if we want to get our parks back into decent shape. We started last year to zero out our trust funds. Realistically, we were getting $65,000 a year from the TDA funding that comes through HCOG to the county that we earmarked for parks. That is now going all to transit, and we are going to be out of our trust fund at the end of next year. So we have basically 1 year to come up with a game plan on how the county is going to keep its parks and trails in the future. Again, the LTF went down. General fund has not contributed to bicycles and trailways project. That was all TDA funding. We're down to 15 grand basically. That's the revenue from our billboards on our portion of the Bay Trail. And we are adding responsibility for the Humboldt Bay Trail this year. And we're expected to take on a portion of the Annie and Mary Trail outside Arcata's city limits once it is constructed. That was a commitment made by the board back in 2020. So we are looking at some different recommendations. We're thinking hopefully having a board ad hoc committee with the CAO's office to work with Public Works over the next year on a finance strategy for operation and maintenance of county parks and trails. Need to explore whether certain parks can be relinquished or transferred to other entities. Moonstone Beach, Mad River Beach, Table Bluff, Centerville Beach, Samoa Campground, Boat Ramp are all parks that we think should be looked at for transferring to other operators. Allow the deferred maintenance trust to be used for county parks facilities. This next bullet is a moot point because HCOG got back to us. They do have a 2% set aside of competitive funds for parks that all the cities in the county can compete with. We're hoping they could raise that, but they can't, and so we have to compete for that limited amount of funding that is there. And then direct staff to make a presentation to the HCOG Humboldt Bay Trail Fund Committee regarding the funding needs. Actually, that's not HCOG, that's the Humboldt Area Foundation. General Services or Facilities Management Division. This is also a division that is extremely struggling, but for different reasons. At the top, we have 5 positions that deliver projects. We're down to 1 body in all those 5 positions. We're holding steady on our building maintenance and our real property, but our project delivery side is suffering. We've had 1 position out for 2 months, and it's got 3 applicants, of which only 1 was qualified but had no experience. So what we are recommending is deallocating of one of our construction project manager position. That's a position that requires an architectural license, deallocating 1 staff services specialist and 2 full-time laborers, and out of that funding saved, adding 2 full-time construction project coordinators, which are basically project managers but don't require a license. That license, if we want to hire licensed people, we're going to have to raise our pay scale. You heard that earlier for professionals, getting professionals up here. We're about $30,000 behind what other people are paying architects. So we had a number of number of projects with RCEA to install zero-cost water heaters at veterans buildings in the county. We addressed a critical safety issue in the correctional facility, removing ligature points in over 65 cells over a 3-month period. Completed multiple small projects at remote county road barns and communication facilities. Completed the acquisition of 803 4th Street. Worked with DHHS and other departments to consolidate office space and terminate unneeded licenses, and completed the lease for 515 J Street to relocate conflict counsel. Capital projects, we completed the courthouse re-roofing project to extend the life of the courthouse. We worked with the design team to reduce the anticipated cost of the Garberville Veterans Hall project by $1.1 million. Worked with DHHS to submit behavioral health continuum infrastructure program grant for design and construction of a new psychiatric health facility, and awarded and kicked off design work with highly qualified international known design team for a new public health laboratory via a successful request for qualifications program. This is our active large project list. This is not the 50 or 60 small projects and the additional 50 or 60 small projects that come in every single year across the board. So as you can see, there are a number of projects here with 1 person to deliver them. We do have a lot of consultants we work with, but they still have to be managed. This is our draft capital projects improvement plan over time. I know it's small and hard to read, but you can blow it up. If you look at the very bottom, you'll see the number of people we actually need to deliver those projects. It's significantly more than we have or we have budgeted for. So we will have to be pushing those projects out over time. We push them out over time. That increases the cost just due to consumer price indexes. So I've gone over a little bit already with the staffing issues. Competition is low. We're not getting a lot of applications. We don't really have a significant recruitment budget. We are hitting every website we can that is low cost or industry related to get the word out across the state. But we just don't know if we're going to get these positions filled at their current compensation level, and it is taking a toll on the one person that is left to deliver all those projects and try to run the division. We have consultant assistants, which we generally use for our larger projects. It works real well, but again, they have to be managed. There's only a very small pool available of local consultants that can do the work we do on facilities. Out of the area consultants can be difficult to incentivize and expensive for small projects because it costs them a lot of money to come up here. A lot of our consultants try to have projects across the North County, North State, so that they can come up and hit all of us and help us all out. But when you're looking at a small project for a building, that's not really anybody out there that does that kind of work. And then priority projects, the capital improvement plan will be coming to you officially, hopefully over the summer. And we need to prioritize where we're going and what we're doing with the money and our people that are available to do and put projects on the ground. With the veterans buildings, we worked with the community energy partner, our CAA, to conduct energy assessments of all county-owned veterans halls. Completed and issued template draft of updated management agreements to the veterans groups, and worked with partner agencies to streamline the delivery of new utility service to the Ferndale Veterans Hall, preventing unnecessary delay in completion of the Ferndale HVAC and electrical service projects. And we really have to thank both PG&E and Caltrans for their assistance and removing roadblocks to make that happen. In design is the new public health laboratory. In the bidding award, this will be coming to your board tomorrow for recommending award, is the Garberville Veterans Building. This is the grant submittal for the new psychiatric health facility. That was an all-hands-on event for DHHS and Public Works to get this done, this grant application in a very, very short and limited time. In construction right now is the Ferndale Vets HVAC project. We demolished the old public health lab site, and now we'll move on to general services. We have to submit an annual roads report every year to the state. Indirect cost rate proposal is right following that, now that our auditor has cleaned house and is getting things down. Now we can go back to getting our indirect rates approved before we would get 10%. Without an audit, you cannot have an ICRP, and with the ICRP, we can get sometimes 80 to 350% on the overhead funded through projects. And we closed out all the available 2017 projects that are not currently in progress. And we will continue working with transit on connection routes and service to the community, and continue our close relationship with not just HTA, but all the transit providers that the county funds throughout the entire county. We do all the project finance and accounting, FEMA billing, Cal OES building, transit contracts, franchise agreements, renter cards, Caltrans billing, other federal agency billing. All of that is done in-house with the Public Works. We have our solid waste services division. We oversee countywide solid waste services, lead coordination with state agencies and jurisdictions on the Joint Solid Waste Task Force, administering our SB 1383 compliance programs. We're in process of, for the last 2 years, of negotiation to revise and administer our franchise agreements. Every year we implement the rate adjustments that are required by the franchise agreements, collaborating with Humboldt Waste Management Authority and all the cities on the organic waste processing infrastructure that is necessary to comply with SB 1383. And we liaise closely with Environmental Services on the maintenance of our Table Bluff landfill. They've been a great help to us in negotiations with the Water Board about some of the issues that are going out there. We support the local edible food recovery programs and, of course, pursue and manage grants. Again, the Solid Waste Services is one person. So we hosted community dump days with Caltrans and their Clean California funds last year in Orleans and Garberville. We recovered over 60 tons of bulk waste ranging from e-waste, refrigerators, TVs, and tires. We launched a countywide edible food recovery program in partnership with all the cities, recovering and redistributing. In total, over 648,000 pounds of food was recovered last year. A lot of that is really due to Food for People and the nonprofits that are out there. Secured Cal Recycle Local Assistance Grant funding to support countywide implementation of SB 1383, including procurement, education, and monitoring components. We are looking at consolidating county container sites to streamline operations coming up. Focusing on outreach on 1383, expansion and continuation of edible food recovery programs, hosting workshops and public engagement sessions on sustainable waste practices, and always looking for new funding sources, especially to replace the one time that was Clean California that really helped out all throughout the county, not just with the county, but all the cities as well. And we're continuing to strengthen regional partnerships for organic processing, recycling innovation, and waste reduction strategies. Our General Service Division, here's just a couple of photos of the dump days and the processing at the Recology Samoa Resource Recovery Center for all the recyclables in the county. With that, I will jump to land use. This is a skeleton crew, really. Development has dropped in the county drastically over the past few years. So we really don't have a lot of people over there. A lot of the work they do is actually in support of our engineering projects, doing all the right-of-way and surveying that has to be done for those projects. There's a lot of legal requirements that we have to conform to as the county, and so we implement those. You can see the trend going down in planning referrals, and you know, we also monitor the McKinleyville drainage fees because that's projects going to fruition, and everything is on a long downhill trend. Right away, real property, we really focus on facility and county road improvement projects. These are two people that do all the right-of-way work that the county needs. Many of our roads have, you know, non-standard right-of-ways, or we need right-of-ways from other people or other agencies to relocate a road, and that requires a lot of legal negotiations and a certain very strict Caltrans process that we follow to make sure we comply with the state funding and get that state funding to reimburse us. The county surveyor does all the legal surveyor duties required for county surveyor, as well as helping out on the county road improvement projects and private development. There are 3 positions, including the county's dedicated county surveyor. Again, this is a lot of work that relies on the outside sector and development. It's a more level than just the real property or the other the land use trend, because they do a lot of work on the county projects, and so there's a lot of consistency there in the county. But in the private sector, everything has been dropping and dropping for quite a few years now. So we want to continue to work with planning and building to implement Excella for processing applications. Excella is the program that planning uses, and we are starting to buy into that program. Again, it costs money. That's why we stayed out of it for so long. And we're analyzing our fees for service on a regular basis to make sure that we're fully recovering our costs where we can. Road Maintenance and Fleet Services Division. So you're all aware of the road maintenance that goes on throughout the county. We do track the requests for services that come in through our dispatch. Jumped from 2022 to 23, and it's gone back down just a little bit, but on average probably going to be about 2,000 people emailing or calling every year about potholes or people speeding or trees down. We purchased and put into service our new brush cutters, increasing our production by 50%. Replaced approximately 400 feet of failed culverts or culverts in need of repair. So if you take down 400 feet, generally the road is, most of our culverts are 20 to 40 feet. So that's a number of culverts that got replaced. That's in-house, not everything that got done by engineering. We graded approximately 300 miles of our dirt roads and pothole patched the other 800 of paved roads. We supplied the county chipper to Fire Safe Council to help with public chipper days. We performed work in Shelter Cove to help the RID with cost share of a Fire Safe grant. Increased the amount of drainage maintenance performed throughout the year. Harvested and crushed approximately 10,700 tons of rock for our base for our roads, and replaced off-road fleet to comply with CARB requirements. We do road plowing in the winter. It does snow significantly up out of the Bay Area, so if you just live down in Humboldt Bay, you may not see this, but up in the hills, we get a lot of snow. We do a lot of tree removal, especially in winter when we have those storms and things start coming down. We have to cut the roads open. Storm damage, we get slides all the time or failed culverts that create sinkholes in the road that we have to continually work on. So we're continuing to research and get training funding available for road equipment due to California CARB requirements and clean fleet requirements. We're finalizing our onboard smoke testing requirements that came into law on January 1st, 2024. We continue to work with the Roads Department to help with sustainability of heavy equipment and trucks, replacement of our striper truck, and we're replaced with a new unit fully outfitted for service. Transition to automatic transmissions and dump truck procurement to help with employee retention and reduce damage and repair costs to vehicles. We completed 623 repair orders. This is our heavy equipment side, including engine replacements, transmission replacements, clutch replacements, axle replacements, etc. So we have a full service shop that takes care of our equipment. We did purchase this new Tier 4 equipment last year with your blessing. We finalized our Measure Z work, working with community groups and community members, performed 6 miles of county roadway chip sealing on Shelter Cove Road, prepared 2 miles of county roadway for chip sealing on Alder Point Road, and our Measure Z brush cutting crew had cut 185 miles of roadside brush. And a part of the next slide or the next section you will see, we are proposing to turn those over to Measure O and return all the money that Public Works was getting on Measure Z back to Measure Z, which you did a week or two ago. And we're working to create roadside fuel breaks in isolated high-density residential areas, and this is what is helping Shelter Cove RID get additional money for other fire protection work they are doing. We have a fleet services division. We have 536 vehicles, 12 which are currently electric. We service about 2,600 different services every year on our motor pool. Just the motor pool, we're looking at the fuel and maintenance and mileage. You can see over time the increase. The fuel is the one that's the most volatile of anything. And finally, for Measure O, just so you know where I'm thinking, so you can get a hold of me before I bring this to the board and tell me what you really think. So we're estimating $23,400,000 this year. I want to set aside $2 million for emergency response for the upcoming winter. Set aside another $2 million for match projects. It says grants, but matches can also be with other agencies such as water districts or cities on projects that are affecting a county road to make those projects whole. I do want to put out a $12 million surfacing contract, and that's paving, chip sealing, and slurry sealing. We want to pay down our fund balance for $1 million. I committed to that in the allocation committee to do $1 million a year until our fund balance turns positive, and to drop the rest into what I call maintenance, which is a lot of different things. It includes our ADA curbside ramps, about $1.5 million a year that we have to continue to do. Materials that we are have not bought in the past, that now we can have money to buy equipment maintenance, personnel, Measures EMO crew, et cetera. And that money will go to good places, and you will see a lot more maintenance. We do plan on hiring out some private maintenance in the upcoming year to see what we can do and add to our maintenance, because we have way more maintenance we can do than the people we have available or the equipment we have available to do it. So we want to get some more work done out in improving the maintenance of our roads. And with that, I'm open for any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Are there any questions from the board? Yep, Supervisor Madrone. Wilson.
Thanks. That was quite a comprehensive review. Of course, one of the bigger concerns I think that you're mentioning is the budgets around our parks and recreation. And one of the selling points to folks that are in our city jurisdictions around paying for Measure O was that, hey, you use these county roads to get to these places you like to go, but a lot of those places we like to go are these parks, right? That's the very, very popular infrastructure. And so I'm hoping that, as we think about how we get to places, the places that we get to are also important. And so I'm hoping that we can figure out a way to address that. And I know you've asked for some sort of subcommittee or ad hoc to deal with that. And I'm hoping we can. I don't know if we'll do that today, but we'll probably bring it back on an agenda, I'm hoping. Then the other part is there was no mention of the complete streets request in the summary that you put out for Measure O, and I'm just hoping that I really want to keep that on the docket. Part of that is also when you had the $2 million for the grant funding. A lot of the complete streets grants basically we compete better when we're self-funding and delineate specifically complete streets funds for that. And again, it's not just about making roads smoother and faster, it's about making them safer. So I'm hoping that I don't need a long response today, but I'm hoping that in the next iteration of what comes back, that's enumerated in some way, and that we have some targets, and we're just kind of getting. And I know you know these things. I know, and you're an advocate for them. It's just for me, it's important that they're in our plans and stated very clearly.
Anybody else? Supervisor Arroyo.
Well, I mean, I hear your, to piggyback on that, I hear your request for an ad hoc, and I'm not, I don't think that we're necessarily able to do that today, if I'm correct. Okay, so I would also be interested in, having that discussion come back soon, because I want to recognize that you've asked for that, so.
Supervisor Bone.
As one of the supervisors that has some of the worst roads in the county, there's been vast improvements made before Measure O with some Measure Z funding, especially on the Honeydew, Petrolia Road, other roads, Alder Point. There's been improvements everywhere, and they've been doing really well. As we move forward, you mentioned, outside contractors and doing road maintenance issues like they do in some other areas, and I think that's when it takes so long to get to an area, 2 miles here, 2 miles, 2 hours there, 2 hours there, shovel time gets cut tremendously. So hopefully we can get some bidders out there to maybe do some of that work for us, as we've talked repeatedly about, and hopefully that will help with some of the hiring, angst, and allow for the contractors out there to get a little piece of the pie at the same time, save money, and they make money. So I appreciate everything the crew's been doing. I know it's been a headache. I know a lot of the time we were considered a training ground. Get them 100, get them 280 hours on a backhoe, and they can go to work for somebody else. So, but we have a lot of longtime employees that have done a great job and stick around. So I appreciate everything that's going and everybody that voted for Measure O.
Thank you. I'm going to ditto on the community voting for Measure O and trusting that to the county for the road work and for the transit. And I just want to say from my district, I hear daily good things about the crews down there out on the Alder Point Road from the 36th side and Neeland, and then also the Garberville area, and how well they respond to the community's needs and all the work and updates that have been happening with Measure Z funding prior to, you don't have any Measure O funding yet, so it's all previous funding at this point. And this highlights how big your department is and how much you touch the organization with motor pool and land use and all of it. It's a lot. And so I appreciate, Tom, all that you and your department do and bring to the county. Okay, I think you're done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, so next we are going to have Auditor Controller. No, we have Aviation and UC Cooperative. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Do you want to stand? Or
I have probably the most sitting job at the county, so I like to stand when I can.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Yeah. I believe I have a PowerPoint. I think Kaylee's pulling it up. Ah, there it is. I am Michael Evenson, Interim Auditor Controller, talking about everybody's favorite topic, accounting, so I'll make it as brief as I can. First off, in July of 2024, we got to move into our new space. It is so much better than what we had before, so I really want to express my gratitude and the gratitude of my staff that we're now in a place that feels comfortable, feels like a workplace, and has improved our productivity, and it's beautiful. I get a lot of jealous comments from other department heads that we get the space and they don't. So moving on though, last year we came to you at this time with a list of goals that we had. We wanted to have no missed reporting deadlines. Unfortunately, we had a few this year as we're still catching up on audits, but we had about 6 weeks this year where we were fully legally compliant for the first time in a long time. So we're working on the last audit, and we're hoping to have our audits and our last cost allocation plans finished over the summer, at which point we will be technically caught up, but I don't want to say we're actually caught up till I turn something in on time. As Amy mentioned earlier today, we've really enhanced the auditability of the receipting function. I really want to express gratitude to all of the departments who really worked through us with a lot of growing pains there as we did that, but this was to eliminate an audit finding that we've had for many, many years, so it's really good. We've closed over 30 funds, also working toward eliminating that audit finding. These were mostly smaller dollar value funds that were just accruing pennies of interest, and they just sat there and caused work for no gain, so we got rid of them. I've started regular meetings with most departments around the county. These have been very, very fruitful. They've kept us on the same page. They've allowed us to align goals, allowed us to discuss the things that maybe are happening in the auditor controller's office that have negative impacts on departments, and finding alternative ways so that both departments' needs can be met. And we've created many internal guides to the auditor controller's office, and we're prepping to turn our eyes externally to helping other departments understand what our requirements are. Just to look back at the year, we completed the 21-22 audit, started and finished the 22-23 audit, and we've started the fiscal year 23-24 audit. For those counting along at home, in the last 12 months, we've done approximately 3 full audits. That's been a very busy year. We expect to finish the 23-24 audit by the end of this fiscal year. Our AP team processes approximately 439 invoices each day, and we process approximately 30 departmental deposits or cash receipts a day. And we have issued paychecks consistently to the county's 2,200 employees every pay period. I hear laughter back there. So upcoming in the next year, we have the fiscal year 24-25 audit. That's going to come every year. GASB has been on a tear lately at the Government Accounting Standards Board, and they issued 3 new major pronouncements that are all going into effect. GASB Statement 102 is compensated absences. We have to completely redo that calculation. 103 is management and discussion and analysis. Historically, there's been boilerplate language around how we do our commentary to our financial statements. That is no longer the case. It has to be localized. It's a good thing. It enhances the accountability and transparency of the agency. It's also a lot of extra work. And finally, GASB Statement 104 is assets. We have to categorize every single asset in the county's books to a much more granular level than we are now. So we won't have infrastructure assets anymore. We'll have road assets, curb assets, building assets, and then the buildings will be even further broken down. The county has approximately 30,000 assets, and we have to go through them one by one by hand and reclassify them. That's why that's 400 hours. That's a lot of work. Next, responding to your board's strategic plan that we enhance technology and listening to the complaints of AFSCME employees who have come to your board and complained about the county using paper time cards in 2025. We're pushing to have full countywide adoption of ExecuTime, which is the county's electronic time card software, by the end of the year, by the end of the next fiscal year. Credit cards is a major burden for the Auditor Controller's Office and the County Administrative Office's Purchasing and Disposition team. We're looking to improve that system and cut the amount of time it takes and enhance accountability, auditability, and transparency all at the same time. And then internal and external training manuals, guys, I discussed this briefly already, but one thing that we hear a lot when new hires come into the county is that we don't know what the Auditor Controller expects. So we're looking at putting down on paper guides on how to do the job and how to submit work to the Auditor Controller's Office successfully. Minimize the amount of issues that departments and department staff have with our office, reduce conflict points. The next point is internal audit. I really want to stress that this is voluntary. I'm not looking at doing something to departments. I'm looking at working in conjunction with departments to do voluntarily. They have to call me and ask me. Red and yellow book audits on county programs. The advantage here is one of the biggest risks as a county we have is we get a lot of federal funding. A lot of the 20 CFR is a very, very challenging bit of regulation, and it's what guides all of our functions. So if we have staff who are in my office who are capable of going out and in advance saying these are your risk factors as part of your funding stream, so to ensure that you get 100% of what you bill back, one, we get more revenue supporting our departments, and two, we don't have as many hits to contingencies as losses, and we don't get as many grantors coming back saying you misused our money. It's just a big benefit. We don't get a whole lot of that, but enough that if we can do it in advance and help people build programs in advance, we're better protected. And then the last point is I want to begin exploring AI and automation tools. I think in our fiscal processing, we have a lot of opportunities for efficiency gains using these tools. This is not something we're going to solve next year. It's a big project. It involves county IT, DHHS IT, auditor controller, CAO, but I think it's something that we can do to save money. And moving on, almost done. I'm trying to move as fast as I can. Areas that I see moving forward. So the first one is, through no fault of anybody in this room, for a few years there was no budgets turned in for the Auditor Controller's Office. This meant as raises were occurring, our staffing allocation wasn't keeping pace. As a result, today, my base budget my salaries exceed my base budget. We have crowded out 2 positions as a result. Fortunately, those positions were vacant. We were able to adjust internally. Things are okay. but it is, as most of the people in the office are in their third year, I'm looking to the future of fearing for the expense. Next point is recruitment and retention. The American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and this is on broader national trends, has declared that the increase in complexity of government accounting and insufficient training in collegiate environments is expected to hit an inflection point in the next 15 years, where employees coming into government environments do not have the training to even understand the job. So building in training processes into our systems to overcome that, working on all of that, but it's a challenge. Fortunately, I did go to specialized government accounting school, so I have a leg up on some other agencies, but not everybody does. And that the number of annual accounting graduates per year is at a record low. So recruiting qualified accountants means competing increasingly with the private sector. And on locally, that leads nicely into the locally comment is, in the last year, we've had 2 applicants offer, accept, and then rescind because they got better job offers in the private sector, usually paying $15 to $20 an hour more than what we pay. And I can make the pension argument all day, but it unfortunately hasn't worked yet. And then the last one is training. Getting staff trained up to speed. Again, we've all been in the role for about 2 years, and ongoing training of county and internal staff, and building a system that allows for turnover and allows us to stay sound during that. And that's more me, but just bringing it up to your board that it's something I am thinking about. Finally, this is the functional areas and the number of FTEs I have assigned in each of them. There is one error on here in the vacant column. There should be one more fiscal assistant 1-2 listed there. But other than that, we are, everything is good, everything's correct. As you can see, as I've mentioned you before, board before accounts payable is a pretty heavy lift for our department. But to date, we've been keeping up and moving ahead. But we do a lot, and we've been hearing other departments sing our praises, and I want to say these are the people, even though there's no names here, these are the people who are really doing the work. I'm the face of the department, but these employees are the ones who get the work done. With that, I'll take questions if you have any.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any questions? Supervisor Bone.
You mentioned AI twice, and I'm probably the last guy should bring that up, but is AI going to be like when we went paperless and started using more paper? That we're going to need more people to manage AI than we really need? Because I know we use more paper now that we went paperless.
I'll admit that I share that fear, that AI might be a panacea. But I would be remiss if I didn't at least look into it on the behalf of this county and see if that we can use it as a tool to save money.
And the reason I bring that up, and this is also something that comes up at another time, should we as a county have somebody that's just focused on AI coordination throughout the whole county, so where it works and where it doesn't work, instead of having 20 departments try to figure out where it's going to work and where it's not going to work? Because I don't understand it all. I just hear the praises of it, but I don't hear. Just a thought.
I'm not sure that's a question for me, but I do agree that there's probably a broader conversation than just me talking about AI.
I think it's a statement from Supervisor Bone
Okay.
to the world, or an ask for whoever's listening. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, well, thank you, Michael. We really appreciate your presentation, and also I know from myself, and I know this board, that we appreciate how efficient the Auditor Controller's office has been.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next, we will have Aviation and Interim Aviation Director, Karen Clower.
morning, Chair and members of the board. I'm Karen Clower, Acting Aviation Director and Assistant CAO. I have with me today Kathy Canepa, our Senior Admin Analyst. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. We do have a presentation. Thank you. The Department of Aviation is an enterprise fund responsible for managing the county's airport system, consisting of 6 airports, one of those being a regional airport and 5 general aviation airports. This report of current year information and proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget information both reflect the department's achievements and the challenges it faces as the Department of Aviation strives towards long-term sustainability. Successes experienced in fiscal year 24-25 include the department successfully securing $6.2 million in federal funding for capital improvement projects and rehabilitation of critical infrastructure projects. This funding represents design for several upcoming projects in 25-26. The lighting and rehab of crack sealing at the California Redwood Coast Humboldt County Airport, or ACV, and starting soon, the Garberville Airport will see its runway overlay project begin. This funding also allowed the department to complete the ACV parking lot rehabilitation project. This project increased ADA accessible parking, added 40% more parking capacity, and overall improved the customer experience at ACV. At the completion of this project, the department contracted with and implemented a new modern parking management system. The 24 calendar year showed ACV's record-breaking performance, serving more than 265,000 commercial passengers. This is the highest in ACV history with 82% seat fill rates. Over 1,240 hours of staff service and maintenance were provided at the 5 general aviation airports. The decrease in hours on this slide compared to the last 2 years is primarily due to current staffing reductions. These slides here show the costs spent in fiscal year 24-25 at each of the 5 general aviation airports. And ACV hosted the Rumble Over the Redwoods Air Show for the enjoyment of more than 10,000 attendees, 181 volunteers, and created a strong outreach to youth interested in aviation and aviation enthusiasts. Rumble Over the Redwoods will once again be hosted at ACV August 9th and 10th this year. The proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget is $9.25 million, and it is used to support operations, capital improvements, and service enhancements for passengers and hangar tenants at our airport system. Grant funding for capital projects is 40% of the revenue received in aviation, with 53% of revenue being generated from fees. Don't be alarmed with this picture, it's a training exercise. As the department continues to strive towards self-sufficiency, the department intends to develop a hangar improvement plan, identify and deploy a work order system to streamline operations. With FAA grant funding, the department plans to purchase a new ARF, or firefighting vehicle, for safety operations at ACV. Murrayfield will receive the PAPI replacement project. Ronaville will have a runway and lighting rehab project, and Garberville will see a runway safety area improvement project in the next fiscal year. The department continues to advance commercial air service recruitment at ACV, enhance the passenger experience by exploring interest in the restaurant at ACV, working on new vendor options or vending options at ACV, and electric vehicle charging. The department will continue in conversations around development of airport properties and continue destination marketing, continued increase in social media, and their Fly ACV website engagement. The department will continue to seek opportunities that will provide sources of revenue and effective uses of resources, including the initiation of a cost-benefit analysis of services provided. This assessment of outlying airports that generate minimal revenue yet require regular maintenance and inspection will require additional data collection. To better assess usage, the department plans to install an aircraft counter at the airports that do not currently have the counters in place. These insights will help guide future recommendations to your board. Some of the challenges the department faces in the current year and anticipates facing in the next fiscal year include: the department began this fiscal year with 18 FTE and is currently operating with 10 FTE due to the vacancy of the director, 2 supervisors, and 5 airport service workers. The proposed budget for fiscal year 25-26 includes staffing with 15 FTE due to the reduction of 3 FTE grant-funded positions. Due to these current staffing levels, and while the department trains new staff, and due to extended hours to servicing airlines, the capacity for addressing needs at general aviation airports will be reduced. Additional challenges that the department sees on the broader industry level includes the national pilot shortage and the skilled aviation workforce shortages. Additionally, the uncertainty of federal funding may impact infrastructure and capital improvement projects going forward. And going forward, the department must carefully align staffing and service levels, sustain and grow revenue sources, and continue investing in critical infrastructure, all while maintaining safety, efficiency, and customer satisfaction across the county's airport systems. I would like to extend a big thank you to Kurt Eicherman, the Airport Operations Manager, Kathy Canepa, Senior Admin Analyst, and Lucinda Jackson for their support during the vacancy of the director position. And of course to the aviation team for their dedication to aviation in Humboldt. And with that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? No? Well, I just want to say, Karen, thanks for all you've done for the aviation department, and Kathy in the interim, and hopefully that won't last very much longer. Thank you for the report.
Thank you.
So we are going to, is public defender going to come some other time?
No, he'll be in court all day today, and we just have one wrap-up presentation tomorrow.
Okay. So we are going to hear from UC Cooperative Extension, and I believe Jeff Stackhouse is our presenter.
If it's all right, I'll probably stand also. Seemed like a logical thing to do. Yes, supervisors, thank you so much for having me today. My name's Jeff Stackhouse. I'm the Livestock and Natural Resources Advisor for Humboldt and Del Norte counties. So Yana wasn't able to make it today because of some last-minute meetings that she had to jump to. So I'm gonna present her slide deck. And the document I just handed out is kind of the annual report that we get out almost every year. So it's nice that that is put together, and it summarizes a lot of what I'm going to talk about today. So I'll try to keep it brief because I know I'm in between you and lunch. But so the bigger picture of UC Extension, also called UC Agriculture and Natural Resources, is just that most counties in the state have an office similar to ours, and they have experts in different fields. And I think the biggest thing to point out is, as a group, we cover agriculture, we cover natural resources, and we cover, healthy families and communities. And we can't cover all of those topics and be experts in everything. So if you look at this map, it really just shows that there's, quite the expansive network that we can tap into. And if we don't know the answer, we probably know someone that does. So really the department goals are pretty simple. I always like to just keep it to, we help people help themselves. And whether that's navigating what food to feed your family, or whether that's navigating what to plant in your garden, or what business model works for whatever your dream business is in the natural resources world, we really try to focus on those topics and develop that workforce if it needs to be developed. We do a lot of work with the volunteer fire departments across the county. We do a lot of work with different communities, groups, and really trying to facilitate putting different entities and different groups together and kind of being a matchmaker almost when it comes to NGOs and other organizations within the county that we work with. Our staff is strong currently. We have about, I think it's 13 people are in the Humboldt County office, and then we have one person in the Crescent City office that also serves Humboldt and Trinity counties. That's Alec Domka, who is a relatively new hire. I think he's been here about 2 years. He's the Rural Economic Development Advisor. And then I think it's important to highlight, and Yana did a good job of color coding here, where the folks that are in black essentially receive their paychecks from the University of California, so hard-funded folks. And then we have a lot of folks that we fund through grants, and those are grants from all sorts of different organizations, state and federal. And then we have, 2 county-funded staff. And those staff people that I really want to highlight today are our new executive secretary, Natasha Curtis. She's been here a year. She's funded by Humboldt County, and she is an absolute rock star. Like, she is great. She came in at a horrible time. The University of California last year switched their entire kind of internal financial programs and made it a lot worse and more cumbersome, as bureaucracies sometimes do. And Natasha's really been the person that's kept the wheels on the bus, and have got that moving forward. The other person I wanted to highlight that you all fund is our part-time secretary, Jennifer Steenbach. She works in the office 4 days a week and does all sorts of stuff, but one of the biggest things that she does is she really is the one in the background that does the paper shuffling for the 4-H program. And the 4-H program is a lot of paperwork. There's 200-ish volunteer adults that are kind of our volunteer educator base. And then there's about 1,700 youth that are in that program for the youth education portions. A couple other people to highlight that are new faces, I think, for this group is Grace Belt was recently picked up as our Youth, Families, and Communities Advisor and has really hit the ground running in the office. So if you see her, make sure to introduce yourself. That position was recently held by Dorina Espinosa. And then the other 2 people are 2 soft-funded folks that have really picked up some of Yana and I's programming, and that's Henry Holbrook, who now runs the Prescribed Burn Association and does a lot of fire research. And then Wallace Robinson, who is really taking over and doing great work in Yana's shop, looking at forest health things. So doing all sorts of work with sudden oak death, and then all of the spruce trees that you see that are losing their foliage. She has plots everywhere, they have plots everywhere, and is doing great work there. Without getting too bogged down into educational programs, we have a lot of them on all sorts of different projects. I do a lot of work with the beef and dairy herds. I also do a lot of work in the kind of the vegetation management space with prescribed fire and other techniques. And then I think it's important to highlight that Eddie Tanner is still with us and doing great work with specialty crops. Lania has kind of changed titles, but is still doing statewide and national fire programming. Yana is doing work in the fire space and is teaching all across the state. Our specialty programs, I think, are fairly popular and common, well-known. more so than us as individuals, and that's the 4-H program, which I already mentioned, the FNEP program, which is kind of the human nutrition program, if you will, the Master Gardeners, which Eddie is finishing a class now with them, and I think that's going to produce essentially another 25 Master Gardeners, which will be a big help for that program. And then the Master Food Preserver program, Grace has picked that up and is helping support those folks. So those programs are all up and going. And then, of course, the research, which is where we get the information to share and educate, is happening in the background. Eddie and I actually partnered on this very cool winter cauliflower project because I see it as a way that we can diversify dairies and produce produce. And then there's, just an array of other research projects that we're doing. One of the others that I'm working on up in Neeland is with a family that is experimenting and adopting virtual fence, which is essentially, for those of you that have dogs, maybe, that you bury the fence in the yard and then you put a collar on them. It's an invisible fence. It's very similar with cows. So you get online and you map a polygon and you want the cows to stay in that polygon. And there's essentially these collars that go on the cows that beep at them and tell them, that they're approaching the edge of this invisible polygon. And then if they go further, it beeps again. If they go further, it vibrates. If they go further, it shocks them and then essentially pushes them back into these polygons. At any rate, I could talk all day about this technology, but it's really, really cool. And it's, it's very Humboldt County nature that, we have early adopters in our community, and it's just part of, I think, who we are as a people. So that one's pretty neat. And then the research, of course, has its component, and then there's the education component, and then there's the research to policy part. And this year, through Lanya's work, there was some advancements in kind of cultural fire practitioner work, and who basically the hoops that they no longer have to jump through to do some of their burning. There's oak woodland work that is finishing up. And the oak woodland really is interesting and fun because we're blessed in this part of the world because most parts of the world in natural spaces have woody encroachers in the lack of fire. Ours, one of them at least, is Douglas fir. The blessing we have with Douglas fir is that it has some merchantable qualities. Unlike the Midwest and the Great Plains where they have juniper, which has no value, at least our encroacher has some value, and we are able to remove some of the limitations to removing fir trees in oak woodlands to essentially try to pay for some of that restoration work without having to use tax dollars. So that's work that's come out of our office. And then Yana's done a lot of work recently with defensible space and is working on something called Zone Zero, for those of you that haven't heard about it. And then I have done some work recently partnering with the University of Maine, where we demonstrated mammalian composting in Humboldt County. And the beauty part of that is we did a lot of research, collected a lot of data, and we basically found nothing, which was exactly what we're hoping to find in terms of risk to the environment. So pretty cool stuff. Then there's these other projects. The Emergency Food Systems is working across the North Coast and has some USDA dollars behind it, which is pretty great. So without spending too much more time, I think, what does UCA&R offer the county? And I think it really gets back to that first slide with the map of California is, we have a pretty deep Rolodex of folks that we can call if there's a question or a need and we don't know the answer. And we have this, because we're across counties and across regions and getting pulled into different areas with our expertise with our colleagues, we really see how other communities work, and we can bring some of kind of the previously designed and functional wheels back home, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. And we really aren't kind of brick and mortar infrastructure, but we are certainly, we strive to be kind of critical human infrastructure for the county. So with that, I think that was the end of Yana's slide deck.
Thank you. Is it Mark and Dina's with the? Yeah, I went up and they showed me a the cows with the collars and their areas. It was really awesome.
Oh, it is cool.
Yeah, it is so cool.
Yeah, and they've tried some of the technology, the virtual fence technology is what we're speaking to
Yeah.
here. They've tried one company and
Yeah.
had some struggles, then we tried a different company, and it's cool to work with those companies because they're really tech people
Yeah.
that know nothing about cows. So trying to explain to them how a cow might behave or think based on this thing that's stuck on its neck is really kind of fun.
It was really cool to see, and the pasteurization that you can do, and by moving your cows, and how the grasses would grow back with just a virtual pasteurization
Yeah.
grid was really cool.
And then you can play favorites too. So like
Yeah.
if you have a cow or a heifer that's not doing well, she can have a bigger polygon than the other ones. So then she kind of
Eats more.
Yeah,
Yep.
she eats more and kind of gets the cream of the crop in terms of picking.
It was really,
So
really
it has a
awesome.
really cool animal welfare benefit too.
Yeah. Supervisor Bunn.
Maybe you could start putting them on the elk, and then that would really help.
No, I mentioned that at a meeting and got laughed out.
I bet you did. For our investment in your guys' department, which is small comparatively, what the return we get is absolutely amazing. And I appreciate you, especially you and Yana. You get out to a lot of have to be at events to explain your positions and everything else. There's very rarely where I go to something that you're not, especially when it has something to do with natural resources and you're there to answer questions. And there's a lot of people with a lot of questions, and it opens their eyes up, just like you were talking about so I really appreciate you getting out there as much as you do. You do a great job.
Thanks, Rex.
Mrs. Supervisor Arroyo.
Call me Mrs. Are there any concerns about the UC within the kind of state budget framework, and any other concerns that we should know about there? I know it might be a little too soon to say, but.
Yeah, I think it's too soon to say. From what I hear murmurs trickling down to me, Yana might have a better idea, but I haven't heard anything. The one thing that was kind of interesting was around the DEI stuff from the top down, from the feds, is I really liked the way that the UCA and our leadership went with it, and they basically said that it is our job to serve Californians, and that's where it ends. So if you're a Californian or in California, we serve you. So I really liked that kind of vision from that regard, but on the state financial stuff, we don't know. And on the federal side, we keep getting grants. Like I'm the Western Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Coordinator for the state of California, which has strings attached to NIFA and where we get research dollars. And it's a monthly revolving door of go, stop. So it's pretty frustrating to try to manage some of these federal grants at the moment. But what the state does, we don't know yet, I don't think.
Yana had shared with me some frustrations she had around state and federal dollars, federal especially grants that came in, and her frustration of the stop go things. And so I think if you emailed her, our board, she would fill you in. I also wanted to say Yana's been very instrumental in helpful with fire insurance discussions and advocacy, and appreciate that. So if you could pass that along to her. I especially appreciate that when I've reached out and had her interact or get information. It's a real strong suit of hers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then a lot of the work that she's done, like this Zone Zero concept is, for those of you that don't know, is like what you do around your actual home 0 to 5 feet. And what's fascinating to me is like just how, like, again, highlighting Yana's work is like how practical it is just to walk through areas like Paradise in LA and see what houses burnt down and try to figure out why. Like the simple thing, you would think, okay, why is a forest advisor doing this? You know, from Humboldt County, shouldn't she be out measuring trees? And it's where do all of our products go, especially redwood products, mostly go to fencing and decking and things. So it's more of the, you know, how do we get people to continue buying wood fences when wood fences are burning down houses? Well, you just put a metal gate up between the house and the fence. And the fence can burn down without wicking to the house. So, I don't know, it's, you never really know, I guess, where you're gonna end up and what questions need to be asked for these different topics, but.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the board? Okay, well, Jeff, thank you so much. And that's the end of our presentation today. And so we're going to go out to public comment on the Zoom.
Thank you, Chair. Caller 7718, I will unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, Kim Sawasi. As usual, I'm one of the few people who sit through these presentations consistently for, I don't know, 16 years, everywhere from a little office to gigantic things where we had everybody meeting in a room and talking to all the department heads, and it was a big kabuki dance. Anyway, I did appreciate that the most comments happened on the UC cooperative extension, and that is something that if I have anything to say about it, won't be Doge. There are other things that will be. Best of luck to us in keeping one of our most important departments, although it's small, it's mighty and extremely important to everybody, as you both pointed out. I did wish to make a comment. I base a lot of what I feel is going to happen on karma. And if one of your departments is able to spend probably $200,000 on, that was for the first report, I think, and that, on seeing that a pedophile keeps 2 children, then I have problems.
Thank you. I think we lost connection.
We're going to hang out for a minute because he still has time. Ask him.
Oh, he's off Zoom completely.
He's off Zoom completely. Okay. Is there any other public commenter?
That's all.
Okay. Is there any public comment in the room? So we'll close public comment. CAO, do you have any final? Alicia? CAO, do you have any final comments you want to make?
I do not have any final comments to make. Thank you.
Okay. So we're adjourned.
We receive and file this report.
I'll second.
And continue to May 6th.
I'll second.
Supervisor Arroyo?
Yes.
Supervisor Madrone?
Yes.
Supervisor Bone?
Yeah.
Supervisor Wilson?
Yes.
Chair Bushnell?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.